leave it to the professionals.
Blessed by Bundy, blah, blah, blah.
Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've been goated when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink, I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Car era lore. Call me Levi playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one, I'm about to get that. Crash that whip for the drumsticks, whiplash. I'm about to get them all. Are you with that? In a white boat, surrounded by blue. I want one, but I got a cop too. I wanna fly high in the sky, arms out wide, trying to soar from a bird's eye view. I'm on fire, Ricky, Bobby, cracking the pavement, Whitney, Bobby. I'm a Saki bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Bruce Wayne been a dog, and I keep it 101, cause I'm feeling kinda spotty. You sipping on some rock, and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck is the
Started off with a
blockchain.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
NFT, Twitter, blockchain. Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like LeBron James. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. Refuse not falling for the FOMO. Listening to Coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they loco. I ain't never gonna stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum NFTs. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I gotta shout out
Started
the
off with a
boys.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Breaking the mood to choose one, but they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in suits. Yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, miny, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. I had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. So I had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the drive with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin, where we dive into all things crypto, NFTs, Web3, and cutting-edge technology. Remember, nothing here is financial advice. Early-stage tech can be exceptionally volatile and risky. So grab your coffee and join Cap and Steve for today's conversation.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain GM. Thanks so much for joining us. If you haven't done so, do us a favor, drop us a GM in the chat down below, then head up top, smash that like, repost, and bookmark on today's space. We greatly appreciate it. It does warm up the algo and does us a solid. We also have special guests joining us around 9 o'clock, so we'd appreciate all the love and support to get the room warmed up prior to them jumping in. The Claynosaurz team going to be joining us. Got a lot going on. I think there's an announcement in that Discord, and we're going to save all the alpha for the team here at 9. But as always, I'm Cap, not but joined by my co-host Steve today. He is in the air or getting ready to get in the air. He'll be hosting the show tomorrow live from Vegas, 5 a.m. Eastern or 5 a.m. Vegas time, 8 a.m. Eastern as always. As a reminder, make sure if you are in Vegas, you need to go pound on Steve's door at 5 a.m. for that live Coffee with Captain in his hotel room tomorrow. I will be in the air, but looking forward to seeing everyone on the ground. I get in there, I think, around 8 or 9 a.m. local time. So should be a fun weekend. Things are heating up, already getting the FOMO. Even though I'm heading there, getting the FOMO just from the pics on the timeline. And like I said, as always, I am Cap, co-hostless today, but excited to chat with some special guests here in about an hour. As always, never any financial advice in the show. Crypto is risky, NFTs are risky, meme coins exceptionally risky to 0 moments notice. Please don't put any money you can't afford to lose. Know that Steve, myself, probably our guest, Hold Tokens we'll talk about from time to time. We are not financial advisors. Certainly not your financial advisor. Don't join us for that. Just join us for some fun, some information, and a little bit of education along the way. We got a actual impromptu special guest. I took a shot this morning in the DMs on a whim. I didn't think he'd be able to join us on literally like 17 minutes of notice. But the one and only Bread Guy has joined us here today. Bread, GM. We're just going to jump right into it because I don't know what your timeline is or your time like this morning. on the no notice, maybe a crunch. So I shot Brett a DM. They said we're going to be chatting MegaETH pre-sale, and if you could join us, would love to get it direct from him. But GM, sir, always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining me on, like I said, 17 minutes notice this morning. I assume that's what you joined us for, to talk a little bit MegaETH. But first of all, GM, what anything else on your mind this morning?
It is. How do I sound?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, come through crystal clear.
Love it. Yeah. I saw the DM. I was like, yeah, you guys have been friendly for a long time. We're obviously homies, and you guys have been friendly to Mega for, again, a long time. So wanted to make sure I come in and talk about stuff if you guys are going to be covering it. So always happy to show some support.
Yeah, certainly appreciate it. I'm actually stoked. I mean, I've said this many times in the show. Full disclosure, myself, Steve, actually also our Coffee with Captain entity. We've minted some Fluffles where we've been excited to support. Candidly, yourself, we like supporting teams, and that's what caught our eye early. Is got a lot of respect for you, and then we got to see kind of how MegaETH was moving. The one thing I've singled out several times is how you've been building with the Mega Mafia and these 30-day sprints with builders in a hacker house. And it seems to me, I could be wrong. I've never launched a blockchain myself, but it seems to me from an outsider's perspective that the MegaETH team has worked as close or closer with the early builders, the pre-launch builders, those early dApps that are going to be going live at launch. I from my perspective, I'm just going to say it. I think you've worked closer with the builders pre-launch than any chain we've seen thus far. Is that too aggressive? Is that too complimentary, or you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is also my first chain, so it's hard for me to say if this is standard practice. I know, like, outside in observing, like, yeah, it does feel like we're taking a different approach. It's part of the reason why I joined the team. Coming on a year now, which is crazy to say. I'm not going to toot my own horn. I hate tooting our own horn. We're trying to do something different. We think it's the way to do this stuff. I don't know if it's like the only way, or we're the only ones who have done it, but if someone's done it before us, fully on them.
And yeah, like I said, it's maybe not by itself a novel idea. Obviously, it would make sense for chains to work with their pre-launch partners. I just think the levels you're going, how deep you're going with this, and I believe, hey, this is an extremely competitive industry, and it's not uncommon to see teams and protocols leave chains. Often they may get, and I hate to use the example, but I'm just going to use it. I look at Blast, and they attracted some great teams. They had motion pre-launch, or I should say pre-TGE rather. From Fantasy Top to, we're big fans of Beezy here on the show. They had a lot of motion and a lot of good builders, and then things kind of fell flat post TGE. Again, I wasn't there, but other than the gold, other than the financial incentive, there didn't seem to be a lot of support or really working with those teams. Like, it's very clear and obvious that MegaETH is working with the teams that are building today. And I don't know, I'm a firm believer that their loyalty does matter and support does matter. And while token allocations and pre-TGE stuff, and whether it's gold or allo, like, while that can attract teams, I think that they're much more sticky if there is some real relationships there, if they're really feeling support and building something for the long term. And I don't know how the thing's going to play out, but again, from my perspective, it seems that MegaETH has separated themselves from many others, at least up to this point, pre-launch. And we will talk about token pre-sale here. I should ask, you got a hard out? I mentioned we got a special guest joining us at 9. Do you have a few? Can we go a little deper before we jump into all things pre-sale?
We could run it up to like we actually have an announcement coming out at the top of the hour. So I'm doing stuff in the background. I think I can cut with like 15 minutes to go and get that to work.
Okay, sweet, appreciate it. Anything you want to share on that announcement coming out here in 50 minutes?
Yeah, I will actually. I mean, not right now, but like, I think I'm not afraid to get into it. Cool. But I largely agree with what you're getting at with Blast. Like, yeah, so totally aligned. We, from early days, have thought that, if you're going to build a chain, you need apps. Obviously, clearly, I think that's pretty readily apparent inside the market, right? You go to a chain because you want to play with an app. You don't go to a chain because you want to see how fast it is or how slow it is or whatever, how private it is. Like you may do that for a novelty transaction, but you're not going to, it's not sticky, right? So like we believe that. So for those in the crowd who aren't aware of how we've approached this, you know, we've had an accelerator co-built since like day one with the chain. The chain's been worked on for upwards of 3 years now at this point with the founders, if you include like their initial prototype. And then, you know, we've had a year and a half, 2 years of an accelerator running. And we're now on our second cohort. So our first batch of apps have already raised more than we have until maybe like after this ICO. Cumulatively, like they've all raised more than us. You guys may have seen them on the timeline. That's like Euphoria, that's Noise. There's a smattering of them. We had about 15 in the first cohort. We're now on our second cohort and we're starting to reveal some of them. Yeah, and it was just with the ethos that like you can do generalized grant programs and just kind of throw money around, which is what Blast did, which is good. It does attract people, but it maybe isn't necessarily sticky or as sticky as if, you know, you actually like live with, co-build. We do 30-day on sites with these people and make sure that we're actually helping them do the raises, do the pitches, help them iterate their product, help, like literally everything. Noise, as an example, the very first thing that they did was a prediction market back in the day. And now it's a perps narrative market, right? You trade trends, or you trade mind share as a perp. So like the evolution for some of these teams has been pretty dramatic just because we have sat there and cultivated them for such a long time. And we think that's going to lead to a really strong ecosystem, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, Noise is one that caught my attention, played around a little bit on it. It's one I'm going to go back to when it goes live. One of the things that I'm curious your take and your thoughts, anything you're comfortable sharing. I'm excited because it doesn't seem like a pre-TGE farm, right? You have apps, they're live, but my understanding is there's not going to be any allocation or any rewards for testnet farming. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, so this kind of gets into the ICO details. So maybe I'll touch on what that is, and then we can touch on like what your sentiment is. Like, yes, we've explicitly tried to avoid farming, at least in the typical sense, since day one, right? Like one of our more popular, like, hey, testnet is live tweets was literally just like, FYI, no incentives. Like, there's no farming here. Like, if that's what you're interested in, don't do it, right? So, like, notoriously, we've been pretty on the nose with basically everything since day one. Same thing with like the NFT sale, right? We sold Fluffles, and in the post for that sale, it was, hey guys, this comes with ownership in the network. It was not like a wink, wink, nod, nod, we're selling an NFT. Like we try to do everything that we can to make sure that we're transparent and honest, and people can tell directly what they're getting into, whether they are or not farming. So like we've done that at every turn as much as possible to this point. Same thing, or likewise with this ICO. So we just announced yesterday the details of the ICO, which opens up on Monday on Sonar. That, you know, we're selling what would have been the second half of the Fluffle sale. So we sold those NFTs. We sold 5K. We plan to sell 5K more for an additional 2.5% of the network. We are now expanding that 2.5% that would have gone to the second 5K into a total of 5% more that is included in this. And then, like, obviously you have to go through the Sonar stuff. And in the post, you know, we say, hey, this is the sale. These are the terms. These are the whatever. It's an English auction. So it'll start at 1 million FDV, and it will go up in rounds with people bidding their commitments up to a capped total of 999 million. That's the self-imposed. Like we don't want it to run rampant, and people to get like fair market price. Frankly, we want people to still be able to allocate, get selected, and get some upside to it. And in the instance where people commit more than we are taking in, so that would be over $50 million, then we are going to do an oversubscription model that prioritizes two different like cohorts, or like the mentality. One is we want to go back and honor the people that have showed support either to us or to Ethereum broadly, whether that's in like a strong DeFi positions, like they're fucking around on chain, or, you know, they've we listed out some NFTs that took place on testnet. So if you're a Bad Buns holder, which is actually on Ethereum mainnet, or there's some cultural NFTs on our testnet. Even some apps have done some stuff at this point, like Showdown. You guys like TCGs. Showdown is a card game on Mega that was created by the #1 Hearthstone and the #1 Magic the Gathering player. It's like a poker / TCG game. Really, really fun. But they've held tournaments, and they promised like allocation to what would have been Fluffle 2 for winners of those tournaments. And like, we're going to honor that, right? And make sure that like if those people get in, that they get allocation, like the designated allocation. But yeah, the oversubscription model is like all of these people that have done stuff either on Ethereum or socially, whatever, with MegaETH or on our testnet. And those people we will identify and try to prioritize their allocation. So if they bid up to, we set the maximum cap at 186,282, which is the speed of light. And then the minimum is
from.
Go ahead.
No, I wondered where that came from. It was a very odd number. I thought random, but no, makes
yeah.
more sense now.
Yeah, it's the speed of light. Like we wanted something that was like decently high, like so it was sizable for large parties, but not so much that they crowd out other people, right? We didn't want like two entities dropping in $15 million and then everyone else gets boxed out, right? And not on a first come first serve stuff. So we're doing the auction so that everyone can signal what they want. We'll have a week-long allocation period where we look at everything that you've tied to your account. So whether it's your Twitter, your Discord, your wallets. So if you have a Fluffle, if you have a Bad Buns, if you have a Fibonacci on testnet ETH, we're going to try to quantify all this stuff. And people that have shown, like, again, very strong, support of us and Ethereum, we'll try to honor their max allocation. So we'd like to go very deep with people that have been very strong. So if you're one of those people, we could try to get you guys max allo, and then we'll try to cover as many people with the minimum allo, which is it's 2,650, so 2,650, and that is the equivalent of what your 1 ETH purchase was when you bought the Fluffle 1, which took place back in February of this year. So like that was the minimum.
So do I understand that correctly then? If for anyone that, so if maybe I misinterpreted, but in my understanding, like if someone holds a Fluffle and they opt in for this, are they guaranteed allocation or no?
Yeah, so like we will favor those types of people.
Okay,
right? Like we believe very strongly that like if you're going to build an ecosystem, you need to have a very strong core nucleus. So being someone that has been with us since early days of the journey, right? About February of this year, Echo was November of last year. If you are someone that has done either of those two rounds, like that's bonus points for us internally. Like we would like to strengthen the bonds with those people as opposed to making sure someone who has literally never said anything about Mega, never done anything, like never had any kind of awareness, just throws in, the minimum bid tomorrow, right? Like that person is probably just a Sybil farm or something. So like, although that is useful, like we think it is better for us to honor the people that have been here since day one.
I love it and greatly appreciated, much respected. So much so that like I've not been like beating the MegaETH drum on the timeline relentlessly. I did, as we mentioned, did participate in the Fluffle presale, missed the earlier one. I'm excited for this for many reasons. I think as much as I'm excited for MegaETH, and no offense meant whatsoever by this, I'm excited as I think this might be a real paradigm shift, I don't want to call it a meta because I don't think it's going to be fleeting. I just think like there's so many things happening here. How you're going about this presale, it's not just whales. It's not just you're taking major steps to not have farmers. But it's also incorporating their on-chain history. It's incorporating their contributions, incorporating the assets they hold, incorporating the support they've shown on the timeline. You call it InfoFi, like. And oh, by the way, you mentioned the sale is taking place on Sonar by Echo. Echo, if you missed it, this is Kobe's platform that Coinbase just bought for $375 to $400 million. I'm saying, you don't have to say this. I believe this is foreshadowing that likely, if not likely, at least possible, MegaETH sees a tier 1 listing or on Coinbase at launch or close thereafter. And I see this forming like, this is just a better way to raise funds. It's the most fair and equitable way to raise funds as opposed to the traditional VC route or the random pre-sale route or the farming we've seen in the past. And I'm so excited about it. It's probably the most aggressive push I've made to my in real life friends in terms of onboarding. Not even exaggerating, not just saying this because you're on the show. I'll actually share some. I'm going to drop in the chat right now some text message I sent to I have a group of in real life friends, and it's called Pickers Chat. It's mostly just stocks. They're mostly TradFi people. They've all done very well for themselves. It's the doctors, the dentists, the attorneys, etc. And they've got disposable income, they play in the markets, and I'm like the crypto guy. All I've been beating the drum for most of 2025 has been buy Bitcoin, buy ETH, buy Hyperliquid. My post yesterday was the first thing probably since like the Moonbirds raffle, and I even referenced that because a few of them in the group did hit on the Moonbirds raffle and they flipped like 2.5 ETH into 6 figures. I reference that in talking about my excitement for this MegaETH sale. I'll just show you, and you can see my thinking in real time, Brad. I'll get your maybe back me down if I'm going too aggressive here, if I'm off base. But I say real actionable alpha here. MegaETH is one of the most hyped and anticipated new blockchains of the cycle. They run a public pre-sale on Echo, which is the platform Coinbase just acquired for $400 million. It does require KYC, must be accredited. Strongly encourage going through the process and throw a small amount of money at it, or a small amount of money that you wouldn't be upset if it goes to zero. Then I linked the tweet and said, last pre-sale like this was Echo was Plasma. All pre-sale participants hit big. Anyone who participated, even $1 received extra tokens worth $9,000. That don't have that expectation. That is probably a one-off, but it is real. It did happen. I go on to say and reward. Also, these are likely to reward supporters, early participators. I say not only on MegaETH, which is likely to get a Coinbase listing at launch now, but also set you up for a future base token allocation from Coinbase potentially. Let me know if any questions. One of my friends says, what's the final date time? How long did KYC take? You must register before 10/27. Pre-sale starts, runs for 72 hours. KYC doesn't take long. And I gave you a shout out, said Brad's a good follow for all things Mega. The tech is really impressive. Full disclosure, I'm in the earlier rounds, and Brad, who's on the team, is a friend. Pre-market perps just went live. This is, I'll show you that chart here in a second. Trading around 5 billion fully diluted value. That tells me the sale should probably oversubscribe and likely hit that $999 million fully FDV. It would be a 5x. However, US must vest those tokens for 12 months. But even if trends down and even end up breaking even, I think the participation could be beneficial. Social and on-chain history are being taken into account or into consideration, and that's likely continue on Echo. I had multiple other friends that asked questions, and again, this to me, this is the first thing I've actually attempted to onboard my in real life friends who, like Alex, who you see here, he does hold some crypto. He's very familiar. But some others who are like adjacent, maybe they hold some Bitcoin in their Coinbase account, starting to really get, ask questions. And this idea of like, we're familiar with ICOs here. I don't think most of the public is, or probably has never participated. I think this Coinbase acquisition of Echo changes everything. And I think Coinbase could be a tremendous top of the funnel for new participants in this realm. Thoughts on that? I'll take a beat.
Yeah, I mean, so you're broadly aligned with what our thoughts are, with the like this kind of being a little bit of a little bit of a paradigm shift. Like, we strongly believe that like the airdrop farming is not necessarily dead, but it is just something that is much harder to get right, and it does not necessarily align all the people who who are just like incentive aligned long term, actually believe in the thing. So it's just not the best source of building up your community. So I think a lot of your stuff is correct. Now, the like tying it to like the base airdrop Echo stuff is that's all speculative. Right. The actual sale will take place on MegaETH mainnet, or not MegaETH mainnet, but on ETH mainnet. So like you won't get any actual base transactions from it, but you will get some transactions from it, and you will get activity on Sonar/Echo. So if they plan to do that, maybe there is some love there. But yeah, I think directionally you have it right. I think this is kind of something of a new shift. We've felt it in the background a little bit that we always plan to do this, right? We've been doing sales for a long time. We've straight up just said, like, we're not favoring airdrops. We favor ownership. We think people that are willing to give up something are someone that is just like in general a stronger cohort of people. And then you just use these qualitative metrics, these KPIs to try to identify the people who are willing to give up a little bit something, to identify the best people that are willing to give up something. So like it's still in combination. It's still a lot of the same stuff, but you just gate it with willing to give up a little bit of something to exchange for ownership, because it's just people giving something for free value it at basically zero, or they will value it less. So I agree. Like
I mean, again, not to pit the two against each other. I have a Monad card. I have a Fluffle. What do you think I value more? Let's say, because here the numbers are swirling. Like at this $5 billion FDV, I think I saw that would put that Fluffle at like 23 to 26K. Does that math sound close to accurate? And if I'm putting you on the spot, I don't want you to answer anything you're not supposed to.
No, yeah. So what did you say? What was the question?
I saw that. I saw numbers floating around that put the Fluffle based on a $5 billion FDV, would put the Fluffle allocation around 23 to 26K. Does that sound right?
It does. There's actually a website you can like. So Ultra, I don't know if you're aware of him. Yeah, of course you are. Everyone's aware of Ultra. He's the one that created Laudio, all that shit. He created a site. It's like a megamath.fun, I think is what it is. And you can literally just sit there and toggle between like what your allocation was if you were in Sonar, if you were in the Fluffle, if you were in whatever, and then like compare to valuations. Like I'm not going to speculate what we think we were worth. We think we're building something cool, but like the market's going to do what the market does. But at current valuations at pre-market, yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, and I guess again, not trying to get you in any hot water there at all. So certainly respect that. I'll go grab that link from Ultra here in a second. And I think my overarching point there is I agree with you because theoretically, because I'm vested, right? I bought that Fluffle for an ETH. You would think I'm more inclined to take profits, when available to recoup my investment. The reality is I'm longer, I'm more vested literally in MegaETH, and therefore I'm more likely to hold those tokens and support long-term, be along for the ride. Whereas with Monad, I'm grateful for it. I'm not trying to say, hey, don't drop me tokens, but I don't feel any sort of connection or any like, I don't know the right word for it. It's not like obligation to hold tokens that I don't feel an obligation, but it's just like my alignment is much more aligned with MegaETH as to opposed to Monad, where MegaETH I'm vested, Monad I'm getting an airdrop. Don't hate me, audience, for telling people they shouldn't just give away free money. But I just this way of raising funds, it gets me really excited, and I'm hopeful it can lead to many others going this route as well. And I think it's just alignment's good, right? Because you see the free stuff, like not all, majority of those people, they're just going to dump it. It's just it's not good for the ecosystem. It's not good for the people who are vested. And I really appreciate the thoughtful approach. Joey, we'll get to you here in a second. I will go get Ultra's site. I just had to show one other response. I said, that friend group, I think I might have successfully onboarded at least one of them into the MegaETH presale based on this GIF response here. They're in. And then another one, he got my other friend that followed that up with, if major protocols do shift to Echo for raises, what do you think differentiates from competitors like Pump Fund and traditional VCs in terms of allocation fairness and long-term value accrual? And needless to say, this is like a lot of these are like we're college friends. So Drew here got dunked on pretty hard because they blamed him. They accused him of using AI in this chat, like our friend group chat, just based on his verbiage and how he was responding to the thing. But anyways, we got the in real life group chat worked up, and I think it's the first time probably since 21-22 that we've got them worked up like that. Diego asked, is there a minimum amount to deploy? You said that minimum is about $2,500. Is that right or no? If you want to participate.
Yeah, so the minimum is the identical, like the same cost that you guys paid for Fluffle 1, which at the time for ETH was one ETH was $26.50 roughly. So that's the minimum we're setting it, just so it's equivalent.
Perfect. And I said I would, Joey, we'll go to you here in a sec. I said I would flash the oh shit, I gotta go back. I said I would flash the pre-market chart just briefly. This will be our daily market update for the day. Wrong screen there. Where'd it go? Here we go. You can see it opened right around 5 billion. It touched almost 7, dipped a little bit, bounced back strong, and still this morning trading. Again, this is pre-market, limited volume, but
limited volume and dead chain. Like it's not even fucking chain. So like
yeah. Don't put too much thought into this, but what I'm interpreting, like I'm not saying it's going to open at a $5 billion valuation, but what this tells me is I think unlikely that the pre-sale doesn't tap out at the $9.99. I just don't see, there's just too many people in this space are excited. And oh, by the way, Mega's taken over the timeline with this announcement. It's if you've missed it or you didn't see, I mean, 10% mind share, Flip Polymarket, Kaushi, Limitless, their founder, had a crash out on the timeline. There's actually a few crash outs yesterday. We won't give them a harder time, but yeah, a few crash outs on the timeline. Despite all that, MegaETH standing at the top of the heap with 10% mind share following this. And except I'm genuinely excited. Like it is a new chain. Be like, oh, what do we need another chain? I guess, Joey, we'll get to you in a second. One last question though for you, Brad. For those that are maybe like, this is the first time they're hearing about MegaETH, or like they saw this pre-sale, they see the noise or the signal on the timeline rather. In your words, if someone asks you what makes MegaETH different, and you don't have to pit it against Monad or any other layer 2 or layer 1, like what's your like elevator pitch? I know it's performant. I know I've got a chance to play around. It's impressive. But how do you summarize that when someone asks like, why do we need another blockchain? What makes MegaETH different?
First real-time blockchain. It's like it's the one of one. So I mean, that's the thing that's different. So like we've had a lot of blockchains, and to this point, it's the difference between, your bandwidth is enough to watch a video, to your bandwidth is high enough that YouTube can exist. Right? Like it's a paradigm shift in what is possible on chain. And to this point, like we've had a lot of things that are great. We're getting a glimpse of what this kind of performance can do with like a Hyperliquid. Right, you look over at Hyperliquid, and the actual like singular app side of it is a really good user experience, and people are enjoying it. And because of that, like it's running like 10,000 TPS, something like that, pretty consistently. And because of that, for that singular app, it's a really good experience. People are willing to like say, "Hey, this is a good thing," but like it is compartmentalized to that singular app. Right, no one else has access to building on something that is as performant as that. All of the other stuff built on Hyperliquid is on Hyper EVM. And that is running at 7 TPS, which is lower than Ethereum mainnet. So like no other builder has just like general exposure to that specific thing that has created a very good app experience. So we are creating a generalized version of that by leaning very, very, very heavily into the Ethereum construction, the Ethereum rollup construction. We're not a rollup, or a Timium, but that L2 construction. And because of that, along with some other stuff that we're going to do, we think we're kind of building just a novel construction that people have broadly overlooked, and we think it's going to change. It's going to change the world.
I think it's quite possible. The other thing I think is a really big deal. I don't know how to explain it well. Can you? And Joey, I promise we will get to you next. I just enjoyed Brad's time this morning. I know he's got to bounce here soon, and my brain keeps running.
Well, don't let him leave before I ask my question.
God, I promise you're next. Last one I got to get out though. Can you, like, this Chainlink announcement seems like a really, really big deal to me. Can you explain that in layman's terms, what it is and why it might be? Like, where my brain goes, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think, you mentioned Hyperliquid. I think with this Chainlink deal, the next real perp dex that could challenge Hyperliquid or Aster, like, why wouldn't it be built on MegaETH? Primarily due to this edge with Chainlink and these oracles. Am I thinking along the right lines there? Like the analog I gave, this is like, you see like TradFi Wall Street guys, they want their offices to be like right next to the server to just gain those microsecond advantages. Am I thinking, is that a good analog here? Or if I'm off, like help us explain what this Chainlink announcement is and why it's such a big deal.
Okay, so you give me two avenues here. One is like, I'll say what that is. Two, I'll say what we've broadly done as a team, like the other things that we're excited about that are in the same vertical. And three, it actually lead into what the announcement is today, which I think is kind of what you're starting to get on. So one, what the Chainlink announcement was for people who didn't see it. Chainlink is the largest Oracle provider in the space, very well known. It's been around for a long time. They partnered with us specifically to build what's called an enshrined oracle. It's like a net new thing. Like typically there's two buckets of oracle designs. One is a push, one is a pull. This is one where we are working directly with Chainlink to enshrine what would have been traditionally a pull oracle. And we're kind of turning it into a push oracle. So we're creating a hybrid, and we're embedding it directly inside of our execution environments, like directly inside the sequencer. So typically, or before this, you would have to, like, the application would have to go ping Chainlink and say, bro, give me the price. They would include all that information. They'd send it into the chain would do it. What we're doing is, again, because we're like really leaning into this unique construction of what the L2 roadmap actually allows for, is we have the sequencers, this big nasty machine that we're created. Users now just say, hey, I want to swap ETH for USDC. Whenever they swap it, the application doesn't have to do anything. There's no lifts, whatever. It comes into the sequencer. The sequencer then is smart enough to say, hey, we know this swap wants to swap USDC and ETH. So the machine pings Chainlink, their data streams thing, pulls in the updated price and then inserts a transaction ahead of the swap, so that the swap now is instantaneous and is immediately preceded by the most outdated price that you could possibly have. So like the slippage is basically zero. Whereas like people don't understand this in a lot of these blockchains is like the block times is effectively distance you can travel from current price, right? Because pricing never changes on centralized exchanges. It never changes on anything, right? So on Ethereum, for instance, if you have a 12-second block time, right, that means that 12 seconds is drift from what the actual price is until like the next thing comes in. So if I put in a transaction, it doesn't get in for 12 seconds. The price may have drifted, 12 seconds worth from that price. So I'll say there's a liquidation cascade, and now I have a toxic transaction that like can pick me off. And like it's really bad for people that are trying to just like arbitrage or market make or do whatever. So by doing this, we have very, very tight spreads, or we will allow for that, right? So it's something we're excited about. So that's what that is. Yes, we're excited about it. Yes, we think it'll level up a lot of DeFi. Two, this is just like something that we have already done with several other players. So one, we're very excited because of Chainlink, obviously a very dominant player in the space, very renowned. Happy that they're partnering with us. This is now the third instance of large teams partnering with us because they see what we are building as something that is that kind of like challenges their technical prowess. So Athena partnered with us. We're going to have our own native stablecoin on day one. So a lot of these ecosystems, literally all of I'm putting a graphic together today to show what it actually looks like. A lot of these ecosystems are leaking value, right, to Circle, to Tether, to whoever, because those stablecoins exist on the chain. No one on the chain gets any kind of yield associated to that. And then Tether makes, $20 million a day and the yield on the back end of all this stuff. So we partner with Athena. We're going to have our own stablecoin, except now that stablecoin yield will go to us, right? So to the ecosystem, and we can leverage that to pump it back into the ecosystem. So what is traditionally, again, upwards of $20 million a day to Tether leaking out of the system will go back to us and to our apps and to what MegaETH is trying to build. So like we're trying to close that up. So we'll have that. And then the third is Bolt, which is from Redstone. Redstone's another Oracle provider. They actually built the world's fastest push oracle. So like the juxtaposition of, not juxtaposition, but the opposite of what the Chainlink thing is. And they put the price on chain every 2 milliseconds. So like we have both of these oracles available to developers, and then we have the Athena partnership. All stuff we're super excited about. And okay, finally, then last thing, what goes into today, you were talking about like, yes, like high frequency trading firms, like when you look at like the NASDAQ, they pay for co-location, right? For trying to get as close as you can to the stock exchange because you want to optimize down to the very millisecond, that nanosecond even, so your trade can be efficient. So it's predictable, you can do some stuff. Well, with today's announcement, we're actually going to be detailing another revenue stream of us. Like we have the revenue stream, which is the stablecoin, right? So it vastly will outperform fees that like we actually would have to charge on the chain like as a margin. So like that's good, assuming we get decent TVL. But then with today's announcement, it'll be talking about proximity markets that we will allow because of the sequencer, this big thing that is fast and has the Chainlink thing tied into it. All this stuff will actually sell floor space next to our auction off floor space next to this sequencer, so that people can, these very large firms that are trying to professionally market, make and do all this stuff and optimize down to the millisecond, they can bid against other firms in the Mega token so that they can get closer, have more efficient bidding, like do all this stuff, right? So there's that. And then the sequencer that we're talking about, we plan on rotating it around the world. So like we'll have several data centers picked across the world. So say sun goes down in Japan, it comes up in New York. The sequencer that is active, the thing that's building the blocks, the thing that is like co-located to all of this stuff, will actually rotate with it. So the one in Tokyo will be inactive and the one in New York will fire up, hand off, as fast as possible. And then that means anyone who is now transacting on the active side of the world has lower latency to this thing, to the block builder, because it's closer to them. Yeah, that'll come out here in 20 minutes.
Seems like some really big deals. You get me like, well, Joey, you're up next. I've got two final thoughts before I let Bert get out of here. Steve can attest in the chat. We chatted about it yesterday in terms of I'll just say if you're an active participant, if you're an up and coming content creator, if you want to get participating in this space and really lean into an ecosystem, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better ecosystem to really double down on. We gave our guy Mackie a shout out the other day, and I very well may be looking for a new home team, a new home base, and it's like when I give the disclaimer that I'm not a financial advisor, don't do what I do. I'm a little different on the risk curve. My brain's probably broken, considering paying the penalty and just full porting my my 401k into this thing. So we will see how aggressive I go. But Joey, get in here, save me from my degeneracy. GM sir, always a pleasure. What brought you up today? What questions you got for Brad?
GM guys, what's up, Reds? How are you? So I have a Fluffle as well. I was lucky enough to be a part of that, and I spent a lot of time building my Fluffle because there was so many different options of like, you know, style and faction and all that stuff. And obviously, as you stated multiple times, you know, our Fluffle is going to get us an allocation for the upcoming TGE. I'm going to admit that I tried to keep up as much as I could. Like I got a Fibonacci. I also just did that other one where like all you had to do is go to the wallet, go to the website and like put your wallet in, and you also got a badge. And I know there's been a lot of stuff that Fluffles have gotten access to.
Yeah, if you got the CMO, you're in the culture.
Yeah. So first question, is there a plan to migrate Fluffles from ETH mainnet to MegaETH when it launches?
Soulbound token.
Okay, so on. Yeah.
Oh, that's
so
right. I guess it's sold out, so you can't. So would we get something on MegaETH that like represents our Fluffle then?
Yeah. So I'll say there's no definitive plans. Regarding the Fluffles, like we did do a little note inside of the FAQ on this thing, like yes, the sale represents what would have been the other 5K. So cumulatively, what the plan is roughly in our head is we have these other 5K that are the art's created. It's all this stuff. We're just like we want to give it out to people. So that will we'll find a way to distribute those, but we will not sell them, right? So like we want to find a way to give them out. There is a mention of a mainnet campaign that we will be doing. So this ICO sale is not the last instance that we will be giving out what will be, you know, the mega token, and that mainnet campaign is alluding to what that will be. So there will be an initiative first to just like we want to make sure we distribute all the 10K. The contracts on Ethereum mainnet, they're soul bound, so they're not doing anything there. And I'll just say that, you know, we have some ideas of trying to. I don't want to say bringing them home is not the right way because, like, you know, we're stuck to Ethereum. Ethereum's our thing. MegaETH is the name. So I keep those there, but I think there is something we can do potentially on mainnet, mega mainnet, to give you guys like a mirror representation.
Okay, cool. And then the last question. I mean, I have a bunch of questions, but obviously you got to go on somebody else's question. But my last question that I want to ask is, we've seen a lot of these chains where, you know, you get this NFT, TGE comes, you get this huge benefit from it, and then that's kind of like the end of it. And I know you just talked about some stuff you guys are talking about, but like, what do you envision for the future of Fluffle holders on MegaETH? Like, are they going to continue to be like, you get whitelists and first priority, and like when people are coming to build on MegaETH, are you going to say, hey, make sure you take care of the Fluffles? Like, what does that look like moving forward for all of us that did mint a Fluffle?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously it's a permissionless system and teams are free to do whatever they want. So like, will we continue to be advocates for them? Of course. Like we have a dedicated Telegram chat. If you guys are not in there, like you can go. It's like the people's chat, I think is what we call it. So like you can be amongst those people. I do think like we did a really good job because like the NFT itself is not necessarily just like, hey, this person is, you know, they bought the ICO. It's part of the Fluffle. We did a lot of work to determine who we wanted to allow into that, right? That's a snapshot in time. It's a snapshot of all the work that we did to suss out wallets that we thought were value aligned with us, whether you guys were DeFi players or strong social contributors or whatever. So like that, there's a lot of things imbued in that. And I do not foresee a lack of other teams leveraging all the work that we put in for that, for their specific initiatives. So, you know, I would like to think they'll whitelist it and we'll be advocates for it, but we can't force the hand of apps.
We do.
Yeah.
We do appreciate you battling for our Fluffle bags, though, Joey. Well done. Go ahead.
I love my Fluffle, man. That thing is, like I said, I probably spent, I don't even know, 30 minutes going through all the different, and I guess I'll just, last one. Do the factions matter in the grand scheme of things? Like when we chose I don't remember if they were called factions, but all the different like styles, or is it just for the fun of the aesthetics?
Yeah, I think we went through a few names. Like we did factions. I think I tried to rename cults at one point. So like materially, like, are we going to like change token allocation? Like, no, but like, thought was put into them, and I'd like to think that there's probably something that's going to be dictated in the future by that, but it won't be anything like material, right? It'll be something that like aligns with the type of person that elected for this thing or something, right? So like it's something for us to play with, but there's no definitive like cut up that we'll do for that.
Cool. Appreciate you, Breads.
Thanks, Joey. Appreciate you. And let's go, Krita. Brett, you got time for one more question? I know you got to get out of here.
Yeah, hit me.
Krita, go ahead. GM, appreciate you jumping up. Got a question for Brett?
Yeah, I do. GM, everyone. GM, Brett. What's up? How you doing?
Good, man. Nice to see you.
Yeah. My question goes thus. In the long term, do you see MegaETH as complementary to Ethereum L1 security or evolving into a sovereign execution layer?
Oh man, you're touching like this is my topic. All right, so I'm gonna cut you straight with this. So like this is the whole parasitic L2 thing. So there's a few angles to this. One is like I broadly believe that a lot of the value or the trend of value in this ecosystem is going towards execution environment. Now, your question was around security. Security is 100% given by Ethereum. It's the reason we chose Ethereum. Ethereum today is 100% perfect for what we are. I don't need it to be faster. I don't need it to be more performant. I just need it to be live. I need it to be decentralized. I need it to be credibly neutral. All of those things, like that is the perfect base layer for us because the marriage that we're forming is Ethereum is decentralized, Ethereum is live, Ethereum is censorship resistant, and we are fast as fuck. That's the combination. You don't need anyone else whenever you have us two, right? You have the one side for the like unstoppable computer that is Ethereum, and you have us for what no other chain can be bigger and faster than. And it's just those two things. You don't need 7 MegaETHs, you need 1 MegaETH and you need 1 Ethereum. And like those two encapsulates the entire spectrum of things that you could possibly want. Now, the question now that you start to get into with like are L2s or are we parasitic to what Ethereum would be, and you're talking about the execution stuff, that all comes down to your belief of like what you think is like competing between the two things. So like DeFi broadly, right? Like, so if someone is going to lend $1, they're only going to lend $1 on MegaETH or Ethereum or Solana or Monad or Base or whatever. And I'm a full believer that yes, there is overlap there. And yes, in that sense, it is parasitic. Now, the second question that comes from that is it good for ETH bags, right? Because we're talking about a mega token here. Like what happens to my ETH bags in this world? The things that we're doing that we think bring value to the Ethereum ecosystem is one, we still have ETH as our gas token, right? So like it will be a monetary asset on our chain. People will need it to transact. So like there is a little bit of burn pressure there. Not a lot, but there is some, right? So, but that's the case with all L2s. All L2s don't really burn a lot of ETH. But what it does increase, far beyond what other chains can do, is it increases the surface area for which ETH can be money and be basically fucked around with on apps, right? So we can't dictate what all apps will use as like their money or their denominating asset. So a good example of this would be like virtuals on Base, right? You need to acquire ETH so that you can acquire virtuals so that you can like play around with this new app that could not exist on Ethereum. So you're now increasing the surface area of like ETH's usefulness and therefore increasing a little bit of buy pressure. Now, what is that worth? No one knows. It's this like moneyness meme. And if you believe that we are like the end state for execution environments, which I do, like with our construction, you literally can't be faster as a chain that like an L1 specifically. And like we are pushing the limits of L2s basically as far as you can. So like to us, like there will never be a chain faster. If you believe that is going to unlock some use cases for Ethereum, the asset, then it gives it value. Again, who knows what that is? But we intend to maintain our connection with Ethereum because we have to. That's the only way we get to our speeds, and that's what gives us our unlock. And yeah, it's like we hope it's synergistic, but who knows what it actually materializes as price-wise.
Beautiful, thank you.
Great question, Brett. Did you plant Krita to come up and ask that question today? Because that was like he was tugging on all. Dude,
that's like, yeah, he's right on me, right? I was begging for it.
Joey, go ahead and get in here, and I know Brett's probably got to get on the move, but one more question, Joey, and then we'll let Brett give any final words and let him get onto his big post.
Yeah, real quick. So obviously the main thing you talk about when you talk about MegaETH is the speed, the capacity, all this, the technical dev side of things. But one thing we've always talked about with L2s on this show and in general is like they all kind of have their own like culture, right? Like Abstract keeps saying they're the consumer chain, and right, like so like I guess my question to you is what is the culture of MegaETH? Like who do you expect to attract DApp wise? Like why are people going besides the amazing tech and speed, right? Like what are people going to want to come and do on MegaETH?
So I like there's one, like if you're talking a sector, like I would not pick a single sector for us. I'm not going to say, oh, we're the consumer chain, or oh, we're the gaming chain, or oh, we're the DeFi chain. Like we're going to be all that. So like the thing that we are indexing on is a little bit of the fuck around and find out energy. So like the avant-garde, the creatives, the dare to experimentors, and through that, because if I were to look at the broad landscape right now, like that's Solana for me, right? That's where people go to try to do the new weird thing because the chain is fast enough and the UX is good enough that it is a good experience. So that has broadly been the EVM ecosystem has broadly been deprived of that. Right now, if you're looking at like the fastest EVM chain, you're looking at Base, which is 200 TPS, still nothing impressive. Again, like for reference, Solana's at 1300 TPS, they can go higher. So we think we are creating the environment for a lot of these people who have been building on Ethereum, on Base, on like all of these EVM chains that just have not been able to really truly experiment. And which is like, again, Solidity is like the most dominant contract language in the space right now. So we're just giving those people an environment to really explore their curiosities, and that will materialize in institutional stuff. We already have some people that we have hidden, but they're like institutional players that are very bullish on what we are doing and have a desire to exist in this ecosystem because they can now finally bring their market making abilities, etc., on chain. And then, but it also be consumer facing stuff. So you have, because the capacity is so good and because the responsiveness is so good, you have stuff like Euphoria coming forward. And these are people that are, some even come from the Solana trenches and they're like, hey, we realized even Solana wasn't performing enough for us. So we're coming over here, we're building, and we're trying to create a consumer experience that can literally only exist on a chain that is as responsive as MegaETH. And that we're only as responsive as we can be because we are an L2. So like, it's like the perfect destination for a lot of these things. And my thought process is, if chains, if abstraction of chains continues to happen and applications and developers begin to only just choose the thing that is best for them, regardless of cultural alignment to a specific chain, they say, I want to build the best app because most people don't care about the chain that it's on anymore. They're going to choose the place that has the highest capacity, the fastest speeds, the whatever, which means they'll just naturally gravitate to us because we are the end state of what that is.
Makes sense. And I know you hit it earlier. By the way, I did share Ultra's site up top if you want to do the Mega Moon math with your Fluffle or your earlier round. I've got a Moritz post pulled up here he's bull posting MegaETH and talking about what counts as contribution from the recent announcement. The one thing you mentioned in passing, and then any final thoughts, Brad, anything we didn't ask you about the pre-sale or anything else MegaETH related, feel free to get it in here. But the native stablecoin, not just the fact that you're going to have a native stablecoin at launch, but it's an incredible revenue generator. And it's almost mind-blowing to me that more chains haven't went this route, and they're just like basically punting that revenue to Tether or Circle. It's like people are going to trade pairs. People are going to trade pairs with stables. Why wouldn't you want that extra revenue source? And it's just from so many angles that it really does seem like not just is it going to be the best performant chain, sounds like it, but also how well it's thought out and building. I don't want to say a complete chain. I know it'll evolve. I know it's permissionless, but it really feels like again, going back to the Base comparison, there really just wasn't anything there. There was the jackpot and a farm. Then when they went live, it was like, you had a couple apps, but it was just fragmented apps. Like this really feels like a well thought out ecosystem, and yeah, just well done on that. But Brad, any closing thoughts? Anything we didn't ask you today that you're hoping to share regarding the pre-sale or just MegaETH in general?
No, I appreciate the time. I'm going to give way to my buddy Cab because I am too a giant Clayno holder. I've been to a few of the Clayno Capital meetups, so I love and respect what they're doing. And I got to check my rank on the staking because I was a little late there, but I'm all staked up now. So I want to see how I climb that rank to see what we're going to do there. But I appreciate you having me on. I'm glad that you called out the USDM stuff. Like if we're going to do literally just like straight revenue comps, yeah, like the team, the reason we did the stablecoin stuff is because the team saw where the trend was going. And that's transaction fees and revenue to zero basically for all these chains. So we were trying to be creative and align appropriately to create something net new. We think we landed on that. And yeah, I'll have some charts out probably today that just showcases like the disparity between like if Ethereum had its own stablecoin versus had it been leaking all that revenue to,
oh my goodness,
to like Circle. Bro, it's like, actually I have it right here. I'll just tell you. So on the 30 days, right, Ethereum generated $45 million in fees for the chain. Had it had its own stablecoin and like with the level of stables that it has, it would have generated just under 500 or 600 billion or 600, not billion, 600 million. If it was 4% return on the yield, or it would have generated $1.1 billion over the last 30 days for the ETH token had it not leaked that value to Tether and to Circle and to whatever. Now it's unrealistic to have expected them to do that, but it just shows you like what we can do potentially as a chain starting from zero with our own stablecoin as opposed to leaking that value. So thanks for having me. I gotta go.
Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you, Brad. Always a pleasure. And you heard it here first. The next Claynosaurz activation is going to be live on MegaETH. As soon as I kid, it's a joke. It's a joke. No alpha like that. But Brad, in all seriousness, appreciate you joining us on 17 minutes notice, and we are pumped for all things MegaETH.
Later, Cab. Later, Andrew.
Have a great one. Without further ado, we got a good. I'll swap out the title here in a sec. We've got our guy Andrew on stage, and behind the scenes, we'll get Cab up here in a second. And excited to talk all things Claynosaurz, going from genuine excitement around MegaETH this morning to genuine excitement around Claynosaurz. I've got my nice fancy plushie there in the back. I've got a pack I've already claimed that I haven't ripped yet, but I know maybe we'll get into that this morning. But first things first, Andrew, GM, sir, always a pleasure. Thanks for jumping on.
Morning, Captain. How are you? Thanks for having me. I always love these ones because you guys start nice and early. It's like I'm high energy morning and then I tail off throughout the day. So you get me at a good time.
I'm the same way. I am most days it's like up at 5 a.m. Today was one of those, and I throw back a pre-workout, head to the gym, and then I come home and slam 6 or 7 coffees, and I'm running strong. Like I could run through a brick wall from like 5 a.m. till about 1 p.m.
Yep.
And then I start kind of like coasting through the rest of my day, and usually I'm lucky if I make it to 9 p.m. before I'm out. But yeah, high energy time.
The same.
High energy time for sure. Well, GM, for those, we're going to talk all things Clayno. We've had you on the show before. Do you want to give us a quick background on yourself? Maybe like a high level overview of I assume everyone here is well familiar with Claynosaurz at this point, but even Steve and I were saying probably the team that flies the most under the radar, the most slept on NFT group. And our guy Zane I see out there, who is not just friend of the show, just a friend who's worked with many of the best teams in this space. He's worked with Mr. Beast. He time in and time out, he's a huge Burb fan. He's beating the Burb drum now, but time in and time out, anytime teams get brought up, he without fail mentions how deep and stacked the Claynosaurz team is and how you're moving the best in the space and might be the most slept on team in all of crypto. So do you mind just giving us a quick primer on Claynosaurz, and feel free to tie any connect any dots in terms of your personal background or what brought you to the team?
No, that's true. Yeah, it's always good to do these. Not everyone is always following every single one of these podcasts and all the tweets and all that stuff. But yeah, so Clayno, most predominantly known for its inaugural NFT collection, Solana 2022. We've grown up significantly since then. So that was in November of 22. We launched the first collection. Since then, we've done a whole bunch of other things on Solana. Recently did the Popkins collection on Sui earlier this year. We usually get questions about the chain and all that stuff. So just to get that up front, our view is always very, very long term. We're exploring technologies that meet our end, which is predominantly how do you affect change in our sector, which is the entertainment industry. How do you better those experiences? How do you increase the quality of stories and all these things? And so that's just like a technical exploration, if you will. And our view is really, really long term. So I don't want to go this chain discussion, but I think when you talk about entertainment at large, and a lot of people will log on to Netflix or Disney Plus, they're not asking you where the servers are, right? They just want to see the content. Same for the gaming, you know what I mean? You just jump on, you have fun. So we work towards that end. And so, I've been working on Claynosaurz for the last 3 years. the guys before me, I joined them after they minted the first collection. So I'm CEO, but before me was Cab and a team of kick-ass artists. And I say before me, they're still here. And those guys come from Disney, Pixar, these big backgrounds with really, really high quality 3D and animation work and VFX and all this stuff. So so I joined them shortly after the mint. Well, literally the next day, I would say. Not officially.
How did that happen? I thought you were there from the launch. I didn't realize it was a day post mint. How did that all come together and so quickly following mint? Like, were you Cab and guys before, or?
Yeah, so Cab and I are like, Cab and I, and even Plap and Phil, who's on the team back then. We're all good friends, like 25 years. We've known each other for 25 years. So I was well adept with what they were doing, not involved. Soft advisor as any friend would be with a little bit of business experience. Honestly, dude, the first day when they minted, I minted a Clayno, and I was like, yeah, I'm just here to support my friends. Like, who would spend $200 on a JPEG? Are these guys crazy? I'm not technologically an adept, but I hadn't evolved into the NFT culture and figured that out just yet. So I was just supportive of them, and then kind of got under the hood in a friendly way, like literally the day after, realizing they needed some help on the business side, and jumped in for what were some very simple business problems, but in doing so, was very convinced by the opportunities that they were working towards and what we could do with crypto and so on and so forth. And the guys make fun of me sometimes because when I get into something, I'm not just like, browsing Twitter and doing a little bit of this or that. I probably read like a dozen books and a bunch of articles. And so it became quite clear that there was something to do together. And then just,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I appreciate that. I wasn't aware. I just assumed it was right from the jump. And it's also like a reminder of how fast things move in crypto, right?
Yeah, I think also in a sense it is right from the jump. I don't want to detract from what they did before my time, but I think before I got there, this was really like a project, right? It was a labor of love. It was a lot of creative guys empowered by a smart BD Web3 team that was just like, let's bring some, like, we could do really cool things, and no one's doing this level of quality in Web3 today. Let's mess around and see if people like it. And it was really a project where these guys were predominantly like kind of doing this in their spare time. Albeit, spare time is, if you work 40 hours a week, you still do another 40 hours a week, and they were all doing that. So, and then I think because the mint was rather successful, and they did it 2 weeks after FTX collapsed, so maybe not market successful, but in all other respects, super successful. It minted out, very quickly. It did 3x on the reveal. There was hype around it, and just fandom and people sort of like asking for more. That was sort of an opportunity. We're like, well, let's turn this into something bigger. And it went from, I think when I joined, it went from project to business. Not that they didn't have an idea for what that business could be, but I think it became more of a reality once someone was on board that at least had a little bit of aptitude towards building in that direction.
Yeah, it makes sense. And again, I raving about the team earlier, and it's exactly that. It's very clear and evident that Claynosaurz isn't just another NFT project. No offense to anyone out there who's minted an NFT. It's very, if you caught that MegaETH conversation, part of what's getting me so excited is, as a chain, they're not just relying on sequencer fees for the revenue. Like, they're launching a stablecoin. They're building not just a blockchain and going to rely on token speculation and fundraising rounds, but actually building a real business that could stand alone by itself without the speculation, without the the crypto stuff, right? And it's really impressive. And as I mentioned, like, when I say Claynosaurz are slept on, it's not necessarily like slept. It's definitely not slept on by all, but I think in terms of like accolades and the credit that the team gets for the real business they're building, I think that's where Claynosaurz doesn't get enough credit, is all that you're building outside of crypto and Web3, and the huge collaborations and the launches you have, and all that you've announced already, not even talking about what may be coming. But it's refreshing to see, witness, chat with individuals who are not just relying on speculation, number go up, and hey, let's build a real business in this space and use some of the speculation things to maybe fan the flames, but it's at the end of the day, you've got a real viable business with a incredibly talented team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you see, like you said, people are slept on, and I think, that's not wrong, but I also think we take an approach that is like really long-term in nature in a space that is super short-term. And because it's just an early space and there's so many cool things happening so quickly, people want to like, what's this, what's that? And they kind of move around. Obviously, when you have like a nascent market like this, you've got, you do have in the past like some bad actors, and And sometimes those things look really attractive up front, and then you find out they're not so attractive. So there's like a whole market learning period, and it moves really, really fast. And I think that's great. Like it pushes you really quickly. And by all other respects, we move relatively quickly. But like I said, when I joined and when we started thinking about this from a more scaled perspective, we thought to ourselves, like, wow, this is actually an opportunity that is gigantic, right? Like there is a gigantic opportunity to not just launch an NFT collection and build, you know, the next Pokemon on chain or this big franchise that Claynosaurz is, but there's an opportunity to address an unaddressed market in the entertainment space, which is sort of like this original IP. And it's like this attention economy that doesn't let people build original IP. And that's actually kind of where we are today, where we just announced, while I was on stream, they just put out an announcement on our studio, which is HEEBOO. And so you guys can go check out at HEEBOO official. They just made the announcement there. It's I think Claynosaurz account QT'd it. But this is something that, you know, a lot of teams in haste and in the excitement of Web3 will kind of be like, I have an idea, I'm going to go out and post it. And definitely it's great to be authentic. It's always great to share what you guys are doing. And I think people love that. But there's also something around, you know, planning for the long term and actually kind of doing things really, really well and perfectly right. And because the opportunity here is so big, that's what we wanted to do. So we've been thinking about this and building what you've shared on the screen, HEEBOO, for the last sort of 2+ years, right?
Oh wow!
And that's in contrast to when we got the first idea. Why don't we share it right away? And if we did share what we were thinking about 2 years ago, it would have been something that is different from today. I mean, it addresses the same issues, but it wasn't perfect. And again, to address this like slept on thing, I think a lot of people, especially in Web3, is token, right? Like, let's do a token, let's do a token, let's do a token, let's do a token. But a token is a one-way door, right? Like once you've done a token, I mean, can you do another one? Sure, but probably now these tokens sit on top of each other. Like, how do you figure that out? Even if you go and do another token in another place, well, maybe your reputation isn't in the same place anymore, you know. And so we've been thinking around this scaled solution for the last 2 years and feel really, really good about it now. And we've built a team in that direction. So we're not, you know, an NFT or franchise level team that's, you know, what should be 10 to 12 people. We're 45 people. Our executive team is 5 really, really great people. And we have a 6th person, someone who's just joined us this week, who've been talking to for a bit, and we're going to announce her tomorrow. And this is a team that's not meant for that really empowers Claynosaurz, but it also empowers us to do the studio. And then on the back of this studio, a platform that really solves for, I mean, I can say shaping the future of entertainment, but realistically, like bringing original content back to the market, which is like an unaddressed market segment of, you know, maybe $50 to $100 billion of spend per year. That's the annual investment for a $3 trillion entertainment market, right? So there's a huge opportunity there. We know what we're doing, and I think this is the right way to do it. And we're ahead of the curve by 3 years because it needs to be on blockchain. Like once we explain the tokenomics and what we're thinking, it'll be obvious it needs to be on blockchain.
I agree. Really interesting. This is hot off the presses here. I had that the post pulled up. I think it's pinned up top. If not, I'll go grab it here. Oh yeah, I'll go grab it here in a second. Here's a glimpse of the site. Just joined the wait list myself. And as I mentioned earlier, building a real business, like there's so many people, to your point, that talk about things or the benefits of blockchain tech, and it's just, I don't want to say like that feels like the potential goes to waste or nothing real ever comes of it, or it's just there's so many the grand visions, the next Disney of Web3, and then it really nothing ever really materializes because it's all like seemingly vibe based or, you know, speculation based and building something real. So tell us more about HEEBOO and this studio. Anything you're comfortable to share? I know it's still kind of pre-launch, but what is HEEBOO?
So like I was just saying, so HEEBOO is basically what we're trying to do is bring original entertainment properties back to the market. So anyone who's in the creative, or not creative, anyone who's a consumer of entertainment, all of us, you'll probably feel that it's a lot more iterative content when you log on to Netflix or Prime or even YouTube. You know, it's a lot of the same Marvel stuff. It's a lot of the same Toy Story 5. It's iterative content when it's like, you know, Super Mario Brothers, Barbie. This is an asset class that is, you know, it's going to get depreciated over time the more and more and more of that you do. And as a regular consumer, you probably feel that, right? Like, do you want to see another Marvel movie? Like, sure, it's great, but you're losing this ability to tell really great stories that the people want to see. And the reason that studios are not investing as much in original content as they used to is because it is so competitive, right? Like you can watch anything that was ever made in the history of time at any moment, right? You could go watch The Godfather, you could go watch Casino, you could go watch The Lion King. All this stuff's available right now. So every new piece of content competes with that stuff. And there's a bunch of new content coming out every single day. On Netflix, every time I log in, there's a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of others, different streamers, so on and so forth. Then there's gaming, then there's social media. It's impossible to direct people into a new original IP. The marketing is too competitive. So what studios do is they say, well, actually, it's not a return profile that I can invest in. I can't put hundreds of millions or even $50 million into an original IP where the forecastable result is impossible to forecast. It could be a donut, like it goes zero, or it could be a huge franchise, and all these in-between cases. And also the timeline for that is impossible because it used to be, okay, box office then DVD, right? But now box office is ever less successful. A lot more people have great, entertainment setups at home. And like I said, streaming. So people don't go to the movies as much. And also you used to have DVD and VHS revenue that no longer exists. So there's just a risk profile that's uninvestable, right? So
it seems like they stopped trying. Like it seems like the big Hollywood studios just stopped trying to make new IP. But
well, I think it's
like let's just read something that existed 20 years ago.
Right. It feels that way. And again, I get this question too. It's like, oh, the people are just dumb. No, it's not. They're a business. We're a business too, but they're a big business, right? The entertainment sector started building up in the 1920s. These are huge companies. It's not really, they don't have a layer to like prospect and discover new IP where they can only invest, 500 grand here or 100 grand there or $1 million there. They've got to deploy in $10 million plus tickets and $100 million tickets, right? You're talking about spending $50 to $100 billion a year on new content across the sector for the big studios. So it's just not, and it's not that they don't want to, it's just not an investable thing. And so, but it's in demand. And that's the great irony, right? So generally speaking, when you've got a sector that's unaddressed or it's on the downturn, it's because there's less demand for that product or the supply is deteriorated or whatever the case may be. And the great irony is that there is a ton of supply. That is to say, there are lots of great untold stories. We see them. Cab especially gets a lot of inflow. Will, myself, we see a lot of stuff, just people talking to us, not even looking for it. And then on the demand side, that is to say, us, the regular people, myself, yourself, as consumers, we also like to see original content, right? Like, storytelling is as old as humanity itself. Everyone likes to hear a good story, right? Everyone wants to, and doing that vis-a-vis movies and TV and even socials and all these things is something people want. So how many markets do you see that have the stuff and people that want it but don't deliver it, right? And how big is the market? Like I told you, it's up to $100 billion of annual spend that supports a $3 trillion annual, GDP. So for that sector, this is insane. I mean, economically, that's insane. It's an uninterested market that has the supply and demand. It's sizable, and no one can do it, but we can. And that's where that's where, like I said earlier, token, Web3. Let's move fast. And you're like, well, wait a second. If we do this right, you're not like the next, Hyperliquid or the next DeFi. And I'm not slighting these things because I just think my examples there are just like the use of blockchain for financial purpose is quite obvious. And that's great. And I think it's a great solution. But you're actually in an area that nobody knows how to address. You've built a moat over 3 years that we have, which is the data, which is the development work, which is all these different economic systems. And now it's addressing a huge market that nobody's touching. And it is part of it. Part of it is capital formation, right? Because people do want to invest in these things as well. The problem is this risk asymmetry. But if you're able to design a system where the money comes out as you get fan signal, right? So the fans are telling you, actually, we want to see more of this. Then you invest and release capital. And so in our system, you've got like a committed capital pool that would effectively release to creative teams as success is measured through token trading price and through fan participation and through demand that we measure through our fan intelligence system. And then it matches capital allocation with demand. And that's not a risk proposal that's asymmetric. Now you're telling the investor, you can always get your money back if you need it. But in the meantime, here it is. And then this team, the creative team, doesn't need the money right away either. Like we bootstrapped this company for 2 years, basically. And but they do need the idea that if I perform, I will get money, right? And a creative team is not a typical startup team. It's not there's no finance guy go raise capital and something. So you create that system, and it's so eloquent and it's so beautiful, and it also rewards the fans, because I think this is also an economic principle that is foreign to a big studio, or it's foreign even if you're academically studied in any sort of business or economics, is that usually you've got a team, right? And the team is funded by an investor. Team goes, builds the thing, investor makes their return, team makes their return. And that works for many products, but entertainment is a subjective asset class for which its success is only driven by having real fans. So you have to also accommodate that the fans bring value as well. And the fans should also be rewarded in the same manner as the creative team who gets a reward for their sweat equity. The fans should get a reward for their sweat equity as well, because they contribute materially. So this is the confluence of things that is the honestly, like, the future. I think that captures a big portion of the entertainment business, but also just a subjective asset class that people sort of take for granted.
Yeah, really interesting. You've got my wheels spinning this morning. I do have a few questions from the chat. We'll get to all those here in a second. So you call it an entertainment launch pad for super fans. So am I understanding right? Like, we'll use Claynosaurz for example. Does this mean like I could launch something here, content or a creative in the Claynosaurz universe as a fan, like take my spin or create some creative around the Claynosaurz IP and do that here on this launchpad? Am I tracking with you?
You're on the right track. So the way it would work is this: not everyone will be able to just post things onto the launchpad. We want some degrees of curation and filtering before it comes in there. We've got a ton of launchpad platforms that exist, that have come before us, that exist today, and a lot of the stuff on there is sort of, I mean, not to sound rude, but it's awful, right? Like, it's not, and a lot of people, like, you log onto some of these sites and you're just like, it's all garbage, right? And that's fine. It's a whole different, it serves a different purpose. In this case, we want to filter it so that when you do log on, you're looking at like what looks like Netflix meets Robinhood. You're like, oh, I can participate. I know that there's already all the due diligence has been done. I know that these teams have been vetted, that they're capable, and that everything that I'm looking at is authentic. And I know that if I do decide to spend my time or money into a particular property, that it's vetted. That doesn't guarantee success, but it means that you don't have to think about, is there a scam artist behind this, right? Mm-hmm. That's a governance layer for the platform that, like many tokens that come and then eventually decentralize, it starts likely through tokenomics that are relatively centralized with the team and the treasury and stuff like that, that eventually distribute to people in our community and in across the sector and new builders and so on and so forth, that are capable of making those governance decisions on, okay, this is good, this is not good, we want to see this. And then of course, this is something where blockchain is great, where you can, use the smart contract technology to govern and properly distribute those rewards and so on. So it's like a governance layer. So eventually everyone can post on there. You probably have to pass that governance layer. At first, it's relatively centralized due to the way tokenomics work, and then it gets decentralized. And then these creative teams that are vetted and capable, they get posted there. And like I said, Netflix meets Robinhood. So for the average consumer who maybe doesn't want all this noise, the governance, all that stuff, you're just like, I'm a fan. Maybe I don't have any money. I'm a fan. I go in. Oh, I like this. Like I can come into HEEBOO. I can go on the platform. I can actually participate as a fan, and my contributions are recognized and rewarded. If I'm a fan, also maybe I can invest piecemeal into these new IPs, and that way, money and resources aggregate towards the IPs that people actually want to see, and it flywheels, right? Because the best form of advertising and marketing is word of mouth, right? This is an uncaptured segment that people don't know how to capture in traditional advertising and marketing, right? So this captures it, and it's about that authentic flywheel with real skin in the game.
Yeah, really interesting. Just the Netflix meets Robinhood is, it's just, I think that nails it, right? Like we talk about the challenges that new IP is having going to market.
Right.
I appreciate everyone who jumped up on stage. Cab is working on getting through security, so we'll hopefully he's not getting strip searched at the moment, but we'll get him on here in a second. it's funny because the other day we had a conversation, not even really related to this, but just the idea of it was following the AWS outage and talking about artists and like Spotify, and they all these artists want to go, they want to cut out the middlemen and they want to own their masters. And while I agree, I used the Taylor Swift example, like, yeah, she bought back her masters, but guess what? She went back to Spotify because distribution matters. I don't know as if it's been solved in music. The reality is it's Netflix, it's Amazon, it's the streaming giants game today on the the movie or the shorts, the anime, like or YouTube. Do you like, who would you say, like, who's HEEBOO's competitors? Where do you see yourself fitting into that? So, is it the Netflix of the world? Is that?
No, so I think it's a good question. So I can go on and ramble here for a second. I'll try not to. But to answer the upfront question, no, Netflix, Disney, these guys are not our competitors. I mentioned earlier, like prospecting, discovery. So HEEBOO gives this opportunity for us to prospect and kind of like do a huge wide net, right? And then kind of dig an inch deep. And then the fans and the investors and the people who want to see more, you dig a little bit deeper, you dig a little deeper, right? So you're prospecting. And when you've hit some place where like there's gold or this IP that people really want to go to the next level, well, you do need a Disney or a Netflix to sink in $50 to $100 million. It doesn't prevent the platform for generating that kind of capital, and you could still do it in there. But for those guys who want to spend, who do spend $100 billion a year on new content, of which they would love to spend more and more on original, but they aren't. Well, now you've got a place where you could come and say, oh, like, look what's really popping off on HEEBOO. It's already got, these channels working and these mediums doing well, whether that's NFTs, whether that's a mobile game, whether that's a short film, or whatever it might be. But now we want to do a big production, right? Like, and so they come dip in and say, I'd love to participate in this one. And now they've got a place to go find original IP that's de-risked, right? It doesn't have that risk asymmetry. And they can come in and do the big productions. You'll still want those studios because, whether or not like you want to, everyone can do things on their own, but there comes a scale where, yeah, it is better to have a big production studio that knows what they're doing. And this also could be governed inside the system. Maybe people say, we do want to go on our own. Maybe we don't want to do a movie. Maybe we don't want to do a show. But nonetheless, those guys can come in and use that prospecting layer to invest in the IPs that we want us to get even bigger. And they'll have all the fan signal they need. So it doesn't compete with them. Now, on a long enough time horizon, there is a world in which you could be competitive, where this kind of bifurcates itself into two parts. There's a platform and there's HEEBOO Studios. So we will also, in the same regard, dip into this pool, help the teams we want to help out, and take advantage of the prospecting, right? And so, but then eventually you can't do everything, right? So there is a world in which you can compete with them, but I don't think it's today. And I don't think you need to at all. I mean, in the end, it's like you said, distribution is king. And this is actually to kind of like have an adjacent conversation to that for 2 seconds. Distribution is king. However, right now you've got a ton of streamers and owned by big studios. And what everyone's trying to do is consolidate, right? The effort to consolidate is one sort of like, investment banker, private equity style thing. Get the asset library, you get all the movies, the shows, big bump in your assets, you cut the costs. On your financials, that looks great. Your shareholders are happy, accretive transaction, but it doesn't actually solve this ongoing problem that will continue to deteriorate. But on a 1-2 year basis, looks fantastic. From a distribution perspective, if you're aggregating distribution, that's really powerful. So the problem, though, is this elephant in the room, which is open distribution, YouTube, Twitch, like all of these different platforms, TikTok, all of these are open distribution platforms. I mean, YouTube is the most obvious comparable to a Netflix or a Disney, where, yeah, today you might not see the Netflix or Disney-esque quality content, but it will come to YouTube. Like for Claynosaurz, we're doing a show. We want to put that on YouTube first. Our guys have made Disney movies, right? Like we can make good quality stuff. So that's happening. And obviously there's AI, another elephant in the room that will even empower more people to do such things. So the comparable I gave, I'm gonna really go off the edge here, but just Captain, you're gonna tell me if I'm wrong. But the comparable I gave, because I was talking to this incoming executive that will announce tomorrow, was it's sort of like at the beginning of the turn of the 20th century, Rockefeller is aggregating all these oil assets, right? So aggregating all the refineries and the oil assets, and all the logistics assets. So that's the same thing. And the parallel is the underlying quality asset, which is, let's say, the properties, IP, and then the logistics, the distribution. That works because even though you might take a loss, you're consolidating, you've aggregated a system that gives you pricing power and distribution power. But if you were doing that, and then somewhere down the road, there's just an open oil field where everyone could just take their buckets and move around, and then people are delivering and making their own bigger buckets, and then suddenly people are making their own trucks, and the oil is in abundance. Like that doesn't work anymore, right? And that open land of oil that's freely available that everyone could take with their buckets and trucks and so on and so forth, that's growing and growing. Well, that's YouTube, right? So it's this weird, it's a weird thing where I think that those streamers on a long enough time horizon, they need to become more like curators of content, right? Like having just a lot of it, like Netflix does, it's great. It kind of works today. You do see Netflix announced earnings yesterday and it dropped like 10%, by the way, just to give you an idea of how fragile the system is. And Netflix is the winner of all of this, right? So, and it was for something else, but you know, you have to make some implications of what that really means. So the point being that it's a system that works, and I don't think that distribution is as powerful as people think it is because of open distribution.
It's interesting. You mentioned like you use the word prospecting multiple times. It keeps coming back in my like the analogy. It's almost like potentially like a farm system for the Netflix, the streaming giants of the world. Like today, like maybe there's some content creators, some streamers, that some discoverability on Twitch or TikTok or YouTube, but it's independent streamers. There's, like you said, there's no curation there. It's and really, quite frankly, even if that does become Mr. Beast, the top of the example, right? The top of the mountain in terms of started on YouTube, started creating some content. Now he's got deals with Amazon Prime and everywhere else. Mr. Beast's early supporters don't win. You know, the people who help, you know, the millions of followers, the nearly billion, you know, they're along for the ride, but they're not financially benefiting from that at all. Is that like, that's where my brain goes, is it's like this plays out and HEEBOO becomes the farm system for the major streaming distribution giants. Am I right in thinking that the individuals who identified the IP that had a chance for success, and the IP that does make it big and lands that $50 million deal with Netflix, like those early fans will stand to benefit and truly be along for the ride, be vested in that success. Right. Am I tracking?
That's 100% correct. We want the early fan who has contributed to the longer term success by being there early, contributing through whatever fans do normally through their contributions. Like we see it with Clayno. In our case, it's collecting and building herds with the NFTs. It's being active in our different channels. It's coming to the events. It's all these kinds of things. For Mr. Beast, you know, who will tell you himself, like, I think he was doing videos for 7 to 10 years before he went viral, right? And those videos early on, there's still viewers there. What did they get, right? And without those people, you don't have that inertia that pushes into this virality, right? Sure. And again, Mr. Beast is early, right? Like this guy's on YouTube when YouTube is still kind of growing. And now it's even going to be more and more. You're going to have AI generated channels that just push out content all the time. And that content's going to get better and better. You've got more and more people doing it naturally without the AI. Like you need to reward the fans for their contribution to that brand early on, because otherwise it doesn't exist. One of the examples or sort of like analogies, examples would be like if you put Lord of the Rings up on YouTube right now and no one's ever seen it before, do you think anybody watches it? Probably not. Like it takes a really long time to get into it. No one has that attention. I mean, Lord of the Rings has a book, and so it would generate fandom. Let's assume there was no book. So I'm making up like a theoretical world that doesn't exist. But you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't necessarily generate fandom.
Frankly, it'd have to get lucky to be found, to be discovered. It's brand new. Okay. It could be the same exact story, but there's no book. It has no history. They got to get lucky. It's just, it is what it is. Like you almost have to you have to catch a moment. You got to get lucky or get the right person that just happens to see it, or you get it to the right person and then they blast it out. But if it's truly organic and you're starting with 0 subscribers on YouTube, you got to get lucky, or you're going to post for 7 years until you finally get one to pop.
Right. And in the same vein of thought, like people will say it's luck. Posting for 7 years and then getting lucky is not getting lucky.
Agreed.
Right.
Wholeheartedly agree.
And so there's a matter of like casting a net to create your own luck, but then there's also return on luck, which I think is an important concept, because a lot of time people will say, they'll say, oh, you're so successful, you got so lucky, and like, Can I show you what luck looks like? Because it's not what you think it is. It's a lot of fucking work, and it's a return on luck. So, if you're prepared to take advantage of your luck, you're going to be very successful. If you're not prepared because you haven't done the back work with no expectations, then you're not going to be having a high return on luck. And in the same vein of thought, like it's this idea that, this system, you still have to have underlying IP that's great, but this improves your return on luck, so to speak. If you're a creator that's putting something up there, your ability to get lucky is now empowered by having a system that is signaling to you whether or not fans like things. It has the fans themselves that are getting rewarded for their contributions materially, and it's a flywheel that is meritocratic and transparent. And so at least when someone says, "Oh, you got lucky," well, it's like, actually, no, they didn't get lucky. Look what happened. It's right there. They did this, they did that, they adjusted. The fans came. The fans like this. The fans don't like that. So, it's not. There is degrees of luck, but it's principally great IP that you've responded to the fans, and you've interacted, and you've actually brought things to life in a way that is studiously in line with what they've asked you to do.
Absolutely. And I know the word flywheel has been thrown around a lot in this space recently, but I think in a real sense of, like, the fans are a big part of the flywheel for these major IPs.
Oh, yeah.
Like
100%.
The Lord of Rings fans have absolutely led to the success and the virality of Lord of Rings and each subsequent launch. Like, mention any big IP, and yes, the IP was great. Yes, they had good marketing plans and good launch teams, and et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, those fans, and almost every single example, have absolutely contributed to the success and the growth. And in the overwhelming majority of those cases, unless it's someone bought some toy or collectible, a Star Wars figurine that was unless they speculated on some merch or some collectible, they've never been able to be financially rewarded for showing that support early, right?
Yeah. I think, to be fair, I think it's a different time where people, studios, whoever's investing in the properties, they take the fans for granted, but at the same time, that fan interaction holds less value because distribution is so narrow.
Yep.
So it's not economically unsensible. Today, I think it is, and that's why you have that problem where you've got supply, demand, capital. Everyone wants to see this stuff. The money is there for it. All you've got to do is solve for this economy that is a little bit different than what you normally are taught, or what is instinctively the principal academic answer, right? And I think that's a consequence of the evolution of our times, not just the technology available through blockchain, but also the economy as a whole that makes entertainment, which is effectively a non-productive asset class. That is to say, like, it's not sustenance. If all the entertainment in the world stopped, it's not like no one's gonna jump off a cliff. It's like, it doesn't affect anything. It's a time that we live in where human sustenance is not necessarily the number one principle of value. It's how do you improve human life? And it's the first time in history that we've had such an abundance in our economy for that to be possible, right? Like, just 40 years ago, I think 40, 50 years ago, extreme poverty rate for the globe was 44% or something. Now it's like 7%. If you look at a chart of GDP per capita over the course of the last thousands of years, it just looks like a flat line. And then the Industrial Revolution, computer revolution pumps up. So there's actual real economic reasons why the asset class is growing, and why it's actually even more important in the future from a sort of resource perspective, right? I'm going to go crazy off a cliff here, and people are going to start texting me to shut up. But I do think that this platform raises itself up beyond just entertainment, which can apply itself and will apply itself at first to what we're doing, what we know, animation and film and TV and that kind of stuff. I think it hits other things too. I think it can hit gaming. I think it can hit movies, hit music. It could hit books. It could hit lifestyle brands. But I do think it actually can capture an entire incoming sector that is kind of the scarce resource of the future, which is this non-productive asset class that is actually for the benefit and the how do you make human life even better through stories, through entertainment, through these kinds of things. You see this in the luxury economy, right? Like, how is Louis Vuitton like such a huge company? Like, LVMH is a big company. It's huge. It makes no sense. Why would I pay, $2-3 grand for a leather bag when I can use this functionally, the utility? I can do that for $50, right? It's going to crash. It's going to crash. When's it going to crash, right? Like, traditionally throughout history, you do have these like, sort of like mega cycles, the Roman Empire, the British Empire, the French Empire. Like eventually they come off a cliff because they didn't actually innovate in a sustainable way. They innovated to the end of conquest, and the conquest is limited by geography, and then suddenly you fall off a cliff, right? Because that's not sustainable. You can only capture so much of the globe. But this is actual productive increase across the globe that is infinite in scale. And AI makes that crazier. I'll stop now before someone smacks me on the head. But
no, I love it. Vibe, that we'll get to you here in a minute or two. I saw your hand up. Appreciate you jumping up on stage. And I saw we kept having issues with Cab. It kept bouncing him or wouldn't add him to the stage. But I saw we got the Claynosaurz account and the HEEBOO account. Cab, are you behind one of those?
No, he's not behind either of those. I'll tell you right now.
So one question we got in the chat. Why HEEBOO? Where did the name come from?
It's actually a good one because so the five of us, me, Cab, Blake, Jacques, and Sasha, who are like the five sort of execs that run the studio or the company, plus one that we'll announce tomorrow. But the five of us at the time, like, we need a name for this thing. Like, what's the name? We had thrown things around. So okay, let's jump into a call. And actually, Blake brought it. I think I said, this again, you're going to now see how creative I am, which is like not very much. Maybe economically creative, but not. So I'm like, you know what? I like owls. So like, what? Like owls? And then Blake, I mean, no one was like, no, we don't like owls, but like, that's not really helpful. Thank you, Andrew. And then Blake's like, actually, I had a name in mind, which is HEEBOO. And HEEBOO, we're headquartered out of Montreal, Canada, Quebec. So our province of Quebec, the like national animal, or the provincial animal, I should say, is an owl, like the HEEBOO. So it's like en français, c'est un HEEBOO. So he said it like, but Blake being from California, which is ironic since he's not the one who's Canadian, was like HEEBOO. And when you say it anglicized, we were like, oh, it actually is really, really great. And then, Blake is a marketing guy who's been doing this for a long time, so he knows, he has great instinct there. And Jacques, who's done brand and design for Louis Vuitton, Nike, Apple, like he's a brand guy that really knows his stuff, was like, in so many ways, this is really perfect. So we ran with it, and I think it sticks. I think I like it. What do you think, though?
I like it. Yeah,
you can tell me if you don't.
No, I like it because it's one of those. I don't know how to describe this. It's a name that sounds like a name, but it doesn't. Like, I wasn't familiar with the Canadian owl. Like, so for me, it sounds like a made up name that actually sounds. It's like a Google, right? Where it's a made up thing. It does, the word didn't exist. It's not a thing, but it sounds like a real thing. Is that making any sense at all?
No, I think the Google example is a perfect one. It's like, if I just tell you Google, like, what the hell is Google? Right. Google makes Google. And I think that's one of the things we were getting caught on. Because some of us were like, oh, Netflix, Pixar, which ironically are two names that are very, very like, Pixar is named after like technology that was before they even were doing 3D, right? It doesn't even like, and then Pixar becomes Pixar because it's Pixar. Mm-hmm. Netflix too. Like, if I told you Netflix, but there was no Netflix, you'd be like, Netflix, like that's not very original. But because Netflix is so good at what they do, it's Netflix becomes Netflix, right? So, but I do think he was great, and I think in all the ways you described.
Yeah, I like it. More important question probably. And Cab, I see out there, I'm going to try to add you again. If it doesn't work this time, maybe do a lap, leave X, do a force close on the app, and then come back. But we'll be persistent. We won't give up here. More now. We did get Cab on stage, so serious, really important question for both of you. We'll start with Andrew, and then we'll bring Cab into the conversation. Our guy Diego, big fan of the show, friend of the show. He's got to know, why are you Raptor guys?
Why are we what?
Why are you Raptor guys?
Oh, Raptor guy. I'm a Rex. So, but the question still stands. Honestly, Cab's gonna have a real good answer because he's a creative guy and he's got a brain behind this. I minted a Rex. That was the one I got, the one that I told you about. I got a board Rex, bought a couple more, and I like the Rex. And then it was the one. It's the one that started with. But Cab will have a better answer for me because he's the one who partially created these things. Cab,
GM, always a pleasure. I hope you made it through security okay, unscathed. And I guess first question, to just go right at it, the tough question of the day, why are you a Raptor guy?
I did make it past security. I'm super stoked to head to Tokyo. It's like the worst day ever because I'm so excited about HEEBOO. But hopefully I'm going to have the internet on the plane and I'll be annoying as I can be on CT. Why am I a Raptor guy? I know I have a Rex CFC, but I've always been a Raptor guy since I was a kid because of Jurassic Park, and I thought they were so scary, and I'll never forget like that kitchen scene. But I got to animate. I was on the Raptor team for Jurassic World, and I think that totally converted me. They were like so much fun to animate, and I was part of the team doing like like the chase scene with Chris Pratt and then the ending and all that kind of stuff. And so
that's pretty cool.
I guess you could say that converted me.
That's awesome. I think like obviously you're as a kid and fan of dinosaurs and T-Rex and all that. I don't know if I'd ever even heard of a raptor before Jurassic Park. I think Jurassic Park might have done more for the raptor than any other movie or IP has done for a specific like species of an animal or a dinosaur or anything. Like it put raptors on the map, no?
I think so. Yeah, most likely. They weren't that popular. Like, I mean, I think they're there in like Land Before Time, but like it's such a small thing that like nobody notices. So I think so. But an eagle is a raptor.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Today I learned.
An eagle is a raptor?
Word on the streets is it's just an evolution of that.
I don't buy that. Come on, we need a biologist. Like someone, I don't believe you.
Checker out there. What's ChatGPT?
I don't know. That's cool though. That's a cool story if it's true.
Well, there you go, Diego. Hope that answered your question. Appreciate the chat. And if anyone else has any questions for the Claynosaurz team, drop in any of the chats there, whether YouTube, Abstract, or feel free to jump on stage. And as long as they've got time, I know we're pushing up against 9:45 here, but as long as they got time, we'll fire all the questions as they come in. Vibes, I promise you, we will get to you next. But before we do so, Cab, I know you're traveling. I think I caught Tokyo there. We've also got the Nobody Sausage account coming up on stage. What would you like to share? We want to make sure you get across to the audience today. Anything that we haven't discussed already with Andrew? What gets you most excited about HEEBOO and what's going on with Claynosaurz right now?
Sorry. Someone's trying to take my food. Totally distracted. I'm in the lounge. What gets me most excited is I think one is that greater calling of like really. Okay, I'm gonna try to be polite with this one, but kind of like giving the middle finger to the industry that is completely broken today, and giving a lot of power back to creators. You guys might not know this, but I'll give you an example. The director of K-pop Demon Hunters, who was just created, spent 7 years of her life, wrote this thing, invented this thing, and has created Netflix's biggest success by a massive margin, like ever, has, believe it or not, 0% stake in her own creation.
That's wild.
Especially a portfolio piece. My mandate for the next couple of years is to say that is fucked, and that creators need to retain ownership in their brands, but not just that. To say that the fans that are so very much a part of making sure that those brands are successful and help discovery, and they spend money on it and all that kind of stuff, are just as seen and also have skin in the game. And I think that I'm psyched to, with the guys, really figure out why Web3. I think it's a question everyone's been asking for years and years. And I think this is very much going to be a part of that. It's really like sending a message, giving ownership back to collectors, giving ownership back to the creators. A lot of the things that we kind of thought about a lot on the Claynosaurz side and pioneered. And yeah, that's it. And on the Claynosaurz side, I'm giga bullish on where the franchise is heading. I'm still going to be one of the guys running that. But dare I say it's a little bit on rails now. I'm going to go all over the world. I'm going to talk to creators. I'm going to onboard them into HEEBOO. I'm going to still onboard more creators onto Claynosaurz. I'll do everything I can to make sure that's a global success. But this is the natural evolution, and everybody's been talking about the Disney of Web3. Everyone's been talking about the Pixar of Web3. This is it. Like, this is Y Combinator, Pixar of Web3, and we're gonna send a fucking message. And that has started to snowball. Like, I don't know if you saw the articles that came out last week. That's not pay to play. Like, that's completely organic. And there's this wave happening where the industry is really starting to raise the eyebrow and look at what Claynosaurz has been doing. And obviously, Andrew might have teased about the incoming exec coming in at the HEEBOO level, but it's just so giga bullish.
It's amazing. It's funny you say like the Disney of Web3, and we've been hearing that since 2021. Everyone, there's so many brands want to build I don't know if we need another Disney. We need something before the Disney, right? We need a better way for IP to be discovered, for creators to create IP, and for that to get discovered, and for like we need this new, like truly a paradigm shift, something before the Disney, before the Netflix, and this is a really big
100%.
swing.
It's it's akin to, I guess Pixar is a decent example because they were king made by emerging tech. But it's not a great example for what it is we actually do. And I understand that, like, yeah, the parallel with Disney, it's probably a better parallel to talk about like early days of Disney as a disruptor. But oftentimes when I use that example, it's because it's such an easy kind of parallel to understand and digest, rather than, you know, start and say it's like Kickstarter meets Y Combinator meets like, you know, equity for fans and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
So and I do, again, I promise we'll get to any and all questions as long as we have time permitting. The one thing I do want to ask for everyone listening in is what does this mean for Claynosaurz holders, for Popkins holders? I don't mean to be like, oh, what does this mean for my bags? But what?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, man.
What does it mean for
I'm going to throw it right there, Andrew.
No, it's a good question. I mean, it's an obvious question, but the same principle applies, right? The brands of the future do not exist without their early fans. And actually, for Claynosaurz, you know, Claynosaurz does not exist today the way it does without our early fans, which are our holders, because it's a digital collectible first brand. And actually, it goes a step further because HEEBOO doesn't exist without Claynosaurz, which doesn't exist because of the fans. And actually, the journey that leads us to building HEEBOO the way I've described only exists through our discovery with our fans, right? Day one that I got here, my instinct was like, holy shit, there are so many people. Is it the fun? What do we do with all these things? My point of view, to be very dead honest, was like, this is a liability. But then, you know, smack yourself in the face. Also, Cab smacks me in the face. He tells me like, hey, buddy, wake up. This is what you want. Like every company in the world, like, how do you get your first 100 clients? In our case, fans is far more important than we don't. And then the first 1,000, we got like, you know, thousands of fans who are excited, who have like, you know, invested in these NFTs and these digital collectibles. And you're like, this is not a liability, this is an asset, right? And so my point is, all of the things we described applies to Claynosaurz, and predominantly it applies to this kernel of our super fans and the folks that supported us from day one, the folks that, you know, we've met many times, folks that have become friends, folks that have actually, you know, given us feedback on an ongoing basis. The chats are active like for 3 years. You know, yeah, there's lulls, and sometimes people don't get angry, but they, you know, hey, like, what's going on? Give us more clarity. Is that frustrating for a second? Sure, but it's actually great feedback. So all that goes to say that this all exists because of them. And in all the respects we've described, they will participate in the same way at both levels. I don't know that everything participates at both levels, right? You have the Claynosaurz sort of bit where it's like, you guys should be rewarded. You've earned your right to have a piece of this. And then you have the HEEBOO part, which is also, well, how do you distribute this economic, you know, token and governance layer and first right of investment in new IPs to people that you know are actually fans, that are actually going to, that they're not going to, you know, take their contribution and tank a chart because they don't get it. Well, guess who I know gets it? The guys who've been with us for 3 years. So this is something where I think Claynosaurz is the beginning of all of it. So it's more, Toy Story might be the beginning of Pixar, but this is more than what Toy Story is to Pixar. And I think that's
dude, that's a home run right there. That's clippable. Claynosaurz are to HEEBOO as Toy Story is to Pixar. Like that smacks. And I don't want to, I fully respect that you guys kind of build in silence here, and you've been working on this thing for years, and you didn't want to talk about it till you're ready to talk about it. So not trying to pry anything out of you you're not ready to talk about. But there's also some questions in the chat regarding staking. Do you envision like that being something in the future where you might stake your Popkins or your Clayno and HEEBOO? And
well, right now the Claynos are stakeable. Popkins staking is coming as well. All of this is in this what we're calling our achievement system. That achievement system is meant to measure fandom, right? So we talk about distributing to our fans. In our case, for Claynosaurz, the fans are predominantly holders of the digital collectibles, and also, you know, there's achievements in there for collecting herds, for participating in events, for all these different things, right? We're trying to basically measure what have you contributed to this brand, so we can fairly distribute these sorts of tokens, right? So the achievement system and the staking, these are all things that are aggregating that fan participation, that fan value, if you will. we're going to plug in more systems into that, and this will grow into our fan intelligence system. Today, because Clayno is predominantly digital collectible first, it's capturing that stuff, but it's also going to capture, like, when you play the mobile game, achievements inside of there. If you purchase things inside of the mobile game, skins and things like that. If you watch the show on YouTube or another platform that we might be on, if you watch it early, if you share it, like, all of these things are fan contributions that eventually feed into this achievement system, which is used to distribute that fan equity, so to speak, right? And so when people say, "Oh, staking," that's what the purpose is. Today, that's focused on the Claynosaurz world. At the HEEBOO level, you probably have a similar structure whereby that underlying thing can be staked for benefit and in a similar way. Keeping in mind that it's two different things. When one is sort of like a direct equity contribution, and the other one is sort of a governance and right of first refusal that has a very different economic system. So, but it would apply across.
Yeah, very interesting.
I'm told Popkin staking is live. Oh yeah, it is live. What am I saying? I'm out to lunch. I am out to lunch.
Andrew has not slept in like weeks.
I haven't slept in a while, but it's also I got two small kids at home and all this work. But Popkins, my Popkins are staked. I'm literally a moron.
Go ahead, Gab.
Oh shit! I was gonna say, look, you asked like the what's in it for us, and Andrew spent 5 minutes over explaining it. So I kind of want to just like bring it back and dumb it down. And you know, we've been working on Claynosaurz for years. You guys, especially the holders, of course, have supported us for 3 years. It hasn't been easy. Everybody always talks about co-ownership, what's in it for, you know, like people that really believe in this brand. And the fact is, like, we are going to give a piece of the franchise back to the NFT holders. That's a part of that, and it would be the same mechanism used to do similar things at the HEEBOO level for other IPs. But the Clayno NFTs, including Popkins, will be considered the elite assets in that entire ecosystem.
Interesting. Very cool. Speaking of IP and assets in the ecosystems, I see we had got first appearance by Nobody Sausage here on the stage, and I've seen some. I don't know the relationship there. I've seen some collaboration, or I guess like I saw on the HEEBOO site. I don't know if one of you wants to take that or talk about anything.
Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, the whole idea for the studio is everything we described: empower creative people, bring fandom, and kind of grow this IP. And then Nobody Sausage is one that actually, you know, came to us before we were going to launch HEEBOO. But like I said, we've been thinking about this for 2+ years. So Gael, who's the artist behind Nobody Sausage, was, you know, crypto curious, came to us because he knows we're a serious team of animators. He came to Cab. He's like, this is an animator who we'll respect, but also knows Web3. And then eventually he wanted to launch this meme token. So that's what they did. He did it with a team that we told him, like, these are people that you could trust. And then eventually, you know, our point of view very early was, well, let's, you know, we'll help him out in an effort to kind of maybe we can get some collabs on his massive social media following, 35 million followers, 1 billion views a year. But somewhere down the line, you know, he's getting into Web3 and it becomes a lot to manage. So we're helping him. And we kind of realized, like, well, actually, our creator first fan approach is one that Gael actually seems to really like. Like, you know, as we start working together, he realizes this is something that's great. And it's effectively what he's describing to us, because he's been offered by big studios to be bought out. Give me the IP, we'll make it into something great. And he's always wanted to, like, kind of do it himself. I mean, for a creator, your IP, especially one that's that big, and for him, he's been working on for 4 or 5 years nonstop. It's like your baby, right? Like, so you don't want to just sell it. And so we're like, no, we don't want you to sell it. We want to work on you with it. So now we've developed a relationship that actually extends into the sort of Web3 token management of all that stuff. But that being a meme token. So let's just, to be clear, these are different things from what I just described, because this happens before us. That token is launched, you know, not with our instruction, but with like a little bit of our direction. But that's something that happens without us. And then today, it's like, well, there's still a lot to do there. And we also kind of manage this other side of the brand, which is now going to be, well, how do you perpetuate this beyond just this massive social media following, right? Whether that's consumer product or a TV show or a movie and a video game and all these things. So now we're kind of partnered with him and Nobody Sausage to bring that brand to life. in a different way. Like, sort of bring the fans together, use this token to create the advent of ownership and to actually, reward people properly. It's a different cup of tea, but it's Nobody Sausage is kind of like the second thing that we're doing after Claynosaurz. And it falls into its own original IP that's already big. So that's why it's kind of like a different one, but it's an opportunity you can't pass up. In the same way you said earlier, like distribution is king. Hey, like we just added to HEEBOO 35 million followers, right? There's that connects into Clayno too, right? Like that there's a two-way channel where that helps us distribute on social media. There's a whole bunch of things the ways that helps. And then there's other IP behind that, though. You see on the HEEBOO website, we're kind of teasing some of the projects and people we're talking to and so on.
Andrew, help me understand. Like, I'm not in the industry, right? So as just a consumer, very clear to me for years, people have been talking about like evil Spotify and like artists, musicians wanting to find a better way to publish and distribute to their audience base and not have to rely on the music labels or on Spotify for distribution because they feel like they're getting taken advantage of. This is really the first time I've actually consciously really had a deep thought about the same thing, but for movies and animated shorts and like this whole, it's all entertainment. Why do you think it's been such a known pain point and a talking point in music? Is it just me? Have I been like in the dark? Has this been swirling for a while, or like, because it's very clear to me you're solving or attempting to solve a very real problem in IP creation. Why do you think it's not been a bigger deal for the consumer like myself hasn't really thought of or heard of relative to like the music industry? Any thoughts?
I think it's the same problem, by the way. I'll go after Andrew. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think it's the same problem in both. I think the reason we're more familiar with music is just because Spotify is the king of distribution. So when you hear about the issue, it's Spotify. The same issue exists, for entertainment, not as bad. I shouldn't say. I mean, I'm a big fan of Spotify, but I do understand the issue very well. Not in the same way, but it exists in the entertainment sector as well. But it's not the same names, and also in entertainment, you do have YouTube, you do have open distribution, you have other options. So it's the same problem, not as magnified as it is in the music business, because in the music business, I think it's even a bigger issue, and it's centralized with this behemoth who actually does kind of own the majority of distribution, which is Spotify. So it's the name that comes up again, but it is a similar issue, and the issue is simple. You've got people gatekeeping distribution, and therefore they can take something at one price and sell it at a very different price. It's the same thing I told you about, like the Standard Oil example. If I have all the logistic distribution and processing assets for oil, well, I can buy oil at $5 and sell it at $500. But the guy who sold it to me at $5 was like, "What the, what's going on here?" Right? Because you own the distribution channel, and it's basically that in the entertainment business. Go ahead, Nick, because you'll have a different perspective, or not a different perspective.
Yeah, I think from the perspective, so within the industry, everybody knows all this shit is happening. Obviously, at the consumer level, it's a little bit of a different problem. Is we have choice anxiety. I'm sure most of you guys are paying for multiple streamers. You're using YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of those digital platforms, because distribution is democratized and content making is also becoming more and more commoditized. There's an oversaturation of content, but ironically, a lot of that content's not original. So the Netflixes very rarely are making really like new good shit. Everybody knows it's like we're at like Marvel 100 and it's always a rehash. You're making it's like Jurassic Park 6 now. And what that creates is an ecosystem where there's a desire for original content, but none that's really being greenlit. It's too risky. And so you guys probably spend more time browsing like on Netflix and actually like making a selection and sitting down and watching it. That problem is going to be more real. Also, kids are consuming content in a substantially different, like the next generation is not consuming content the way traditionally like we're used to. So all these are factors that are creating like this inflection point where the streaming wars, I don't know if you guys ever heard that word. It's been tossed around for years. The streaming wars are basically over. Like YouTube is winning, but even YouTube is a middleman, and you need to find a way to disintermediate the middleman. If YouTube pulls the plug, like we've had it happen on the Clayno side, by the way. We had a super successful clip that was organic, that was printing millions of views, and it got flagged by trolls. And Instagram and YouTube, they ask questions later, right? So they like hid the video. As a creator, there's fucking nothing you can do. You got to get legal on board. It takes weeks. You've ruined that video. And that's a problem as well. So even though YouTube itself feels kind of like democratized, it's not really. And so Web3 solves for a lot of that. So these are all these things that we're thinking about on how to fix the solutions for creators, but also create a better ecosystem for fandom. And I think that the future is heading in a place where you're going to have like pockets of brands that are prepackaged with culture, which is what we do, that don't need to have like 100 million followers. They need to have like 50,000 diehards. Those diehards need to be evangelists and rewarded. You've got like satellites of brands all over the place because there's an oversaturation, and that's how you're going to solve for discovery. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but I just posted an article from Cartoon Brew that they wrote about us last week. That's one of the big animation magazines, completely organic. And I posted another post about like our presence at MIP Junior. So what MIP Junior is the premier kids media business to business conference. It happens in Cannes, and it's followed by something called MIPCOM, which is like everyone's there, and it's mostly for like other things like live action. But on the animation side, it's mostly MIP Junior. And why that's important is there was only like 9 panels, and we were invited to be a headlining panelist at that for our emerging strategies in how to bring content to life in this new kind of in entertainment ecosystem. And it's so broken that everyone's starting to look at Claynosaurz and starting to write about all the things that we're doing as if it's a way to present new solutions. And that's what we're going to do with HEEBOO, like at a much larger scale. We're going to be thought leaders. We're already thought leaders in Web2, using the Claynosaurz banner. I'm going to continue to do that. But what I'm really trying to say is that the industry knows the entertainment industry is fucked up. And I think on the fandom level and on the consumer level, you might have seen some signals, but at some point it'll be really, really obvious.
I love it, man. And you're spot on. I believe we've seen it in crypto. We've seen it in Web3. I believe 50,000 diehard activated fans, ambassadors, vested community members, holders. I think 50,000 diehards in this space can generate as much, if not more, motion than 5 million, maybe 50 million normal fans, right? It's like we see the power of this space, and there really is something magical here, something special here. What I'm not sure we've fully seen yet is that like expanding that outside of our bubble, right? Like adding those diehard fans who become the same level of ambassador who may not be the crypto natives. And again, I'm not just saying this because guy on the stage. I think it's going to take something like HEEBOO. It's going to take a team like yourselves to help us break out of this bubble, for the quote unquote normies to understand how special that this space can be when you activate, several thousand diehard fans that feel like they're part of something. They're not just a consumer; they're part of what you're building. And there's so much potential in that. I mean, we've had this vision for so long. It's just, I said it in the war room chat. It's a big swing. It's like, so respect for taking the big swing, respect for really going after something here that could have like massive monumental effect that reverberate throughout all of entertainment.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think sometimes if we had another hour, we would get down a track where I would say we're going to change the world, and I have a whole thought there, but it's big. I think it's a big swing, and you're right. And I think the power of Web3 is often underestimated. I think you're right. Like eventually you have this huge market segment that you bring in, but the vast majority of people, Netflix meets Robinhood, like I said, they just want a platform that works. They don't even know it's Web3. But you know what's really tough about a platform like that? It's like that cold start. Like, how do you get people in here, right? The same thing for the brand. Like, how come Claynosaurz worked? Boom, there's this Web3 culture of curiosity in changing the world, really, because I think it's a lot of people disenchanted with institutions and the current way the system works in many different market segments. And that group of curious people has this immediate cold start solution, which is the hardest part of starting a new network, if you will, right? So it's not to be underestimated. But then when you get 1 billion people on the platform and it's pushing out all the best original IP on the planet, You're just having people like rock and roll. How many people do you think can describe the difference between Web 1 and Web 2?
Not very many.
Not very many. I might not be able to do it. No, I'm just joking.
You guys have been super generous with your time this morning. We've kept you far longer than we initially expected, but truly, genuinely enjoyed the conversation. We talk about coffee with Captain, and it's like Steve and I are fortunate. We just get to have a conversation with our friends.
Where's Steve today?
He's like Cab. He's flying. He made it through security a little before Cab's in the air right now. But
okay.
And of all the
shows, oh my God, we're in sync.
Of all this, yeah, you guys probably passed each other somewhere in the air. But of all shows, he's kicking himself for this. Was he too is a big fan. One thing Cab mentioned he's in Tokyo. I just gotta give some flowers here because I saw the post. I just saw it. I'll quote it. He says, "I head to Tokyo in a few hours to be mentored by David Horvath." David in the audience, big fan of David's, longtime listener, friend of the show. We've had on coffee a few times. He said, today's a special day. So close to 3 years since Mint. This has become the greatest adventure of my life. It's about to get way crazier. I get very introspective on flights. Might tweet storm. The fact that you even said, I'm heading to Tokyo to be mentored by David, who's an employee of the team. Now he's got that's the exact way to look at it. And again, this has nothing to do with, I guess, nothing but everything to do with this conversation today. I don't know. That resonates with me. I really I've had a few incredible mentors in my life. And it's not often that you see company leadership even reference a quote unquote employee as I'm going to be mentored by this person to kind of humble yourself to hey, you guys have got a lot going for you. You also recognize that David has experiences and background that you haven't had yet. So I just respect for that. And again, I said nothing but everything.
Andrew and I and everyone at the company has never shied away from education and bettering ourselves. Dude, life is it's like a video game, man. You're you as a person are like an RPG character. Your goal is always to evolve and level up and grow, let's call it your intellect. And for some people, strength. For me, it's intellect. But it just because someone is hired to work at the company, it does not mean that their wealth of knowledge is lesser than. Oftentimes we hire people that are much, and the way Andrew and I hire is we hire people that are much smarter than ourselves, and we're sponges, and that's how you get better. It's the same thing for Web3, man. We've been here for a little bit over 4 years, if you don't count just the inception of it. And every day you're fucking learning, and that's the point. And I think it'd be a mistake for any founder level person to think they know it all, or anyone for that matter. And it's very much in our DNA to do the best we can and become the best that we can every single day. There's always something to learn, especially in this industry, dude. Retail and toys and how to properly incubate IP, that is an insane can of worms. And actually, the exec that's coming in at the HEEBOO level, spent 3 hours with that person yesterday, and it was an absolute masterclass. My job and Will's job and a few people on the team is to also seed and source new creators and vet their incoming IP and whatever. And we have a good gut instinct, but we haven't been doing this for 30 years, right? And there's a substantial difference when you're working with someone who has and can fill all those knowledge gaps and how to properly work with certain creators or IPs or whatever. And dude, I'm so excited every time I get to learn.
It's awesome. Well, again, shout out to you guys. And I actually kind of pushed back at someone recently because they said hiring from the community is the way to do it. And it's how you find the best people. It's the best way to build a team. And while it can be, I think it goes both directions. I think too often we've seen people hire from the community just because they're a community person, but they're not qualified. They're not the right person for the team.
We do both. We do both, man. I think we have 6 or 7 people from the community now on payroll. And the reason you actually want to do that is, you might unearth some unicorns, but also these are people that are not just coming into it because there was a job application.
Mm-hmm.
They love the brand. They are intimate with it. That's a different type of I don't want to say employee, I just hate that word, but different type of team member. And it's really special when you have the resources to bring them on board.
I agree. I think both is the right way because you can't just go all team. You can't go all, big Web 2 corporate execs. Like it is I think a delicate balance, but you do need to surround yourself with not just rabid fans from the community. They're great. They can be very helpful and deserve it and extremely passionate about what you're building. You also need the people like David and Andrew I see out there that have the chops to help you level up. And yeah, just shout out to how you guys are moving. It's not gone unnoticed, and much respect. I know we've kept you too long. Vibes, you've been super patient. Appreciate it. Do you have a quick question you want to get in here for Andrew or Cab before we let him get out of here?
I do indeed. I'm a writer, so I'm very interested in what you're saying, particularly because I love animation. I only heard of you guys, I have to admit, about 3 weeks ago. So I'm playing catch up, and what I'm hearing is fascinating and very, very interesting. So I can't wait to find out more about what you guys are rolling out. On a creator side, I'd like to know more about how that starts to play out with HEEBOO.
Sure. I think in the end, it's the problem creators face today is there's nowhere for their work to go where you can actually fairly compete, right? Like you either try and sell your work into a studio if you've brought it to that stage, and then that's super competitive. And I think everyone knows it's very tough to do. And even if you do it, the example Nick gave earlier, like K-pop Demon Hunters, like, and then you don't even get a piece of it. Like this is sort of not a system in which is fair to the creator. And then the other options are these open distribution platforms like YouTube and social media and stuff like that. And I think that second approach is probably the right one, but it's not really an easy place to navigate. And also the signals can be a little bit off, and it doesn't empower you necessarily with the capital if you really want to grow something beyond just an additional idea. So from a creative perspective, what HEEBOO brings is a degree of meritocracy and transparency, where you'll see, why something that you've created may or may not be successful in the way that fans may or may not like it. And part of our fan intelligence system is going to be built in order to give that signal. And also it's going to be coupled with the release of capital when the project is funded, which in itself is a signal upon success as determined by the fans. And while it's going to be it's still competitive, at least the creator will know very early on, like whether or not someone likes it, why they do or don't like it, why maybe they weren't able to get the capital around it, why maybe capital isn't releasing because it's not getting demand or fandom around them, which is the journey we went on with Claynosaurz, right? Like, you're kind of looking at these NFTs, you're getting feedback we did it, ad hoc, but what are the community saying? What do they want? How do we adjust? And you kind of adjust through time, and you take the signals in and you make it better. So but I think it offers to the creator meritocracy, which doesn't exist today. And I also think transparency is important. It doesn't mean that there's not competition, but at least it gives you the fair chance to bring your stuff to life. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, I love it.
And if I can, right now, the legacy launch mechanisms or monetization loops are dated and are failing in today's world. Why? Well, that's because their idea of launching something is either a movie or a TV show or a AAA game. And most of the times with the streamers, you're not making money out of that aside from distribution. I make a movie, I sell it to Netflix, they hold the rights, and even they don't make money because they have like an awful LM system where they're not there yet. They're not selling toys. That's going to change a little bit with K-pop Demon Hunters, but they don't have the proper monetization loops in an ecosystem where like box office is starting to fail and disappearing over time, right? Like, which means that you can't give writers royalties the way studios used to do maybe like 15 years ago, right? Like if I write this movie or if I'm an actor or whatever, like I get a small percentage of like box office revenue. Well, if you have no box office, how do you even do that, right? That's called a cost plus. So one, it's riskier because you're paying a slightly bigger paycheck to actors or writers or whatever. But if the movie goes giga, like those writers actually have nothing in return aside from making a couple bucks more in the beginning, right? But it's not at the scale of holding royalties. This fixes a lot of that. Why? Because obviously we can launch everything through Web3, we can crowdfund the entire thing, but also we're masters of other monetization loops that have nothing to do with box office. They have nothing to do with launching a TV show on TV. That's where the world is heading. It's robots, it's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's product, it's experiences, it's IRL experiences, it's all that kind of stuff that legacy has a very difficult time wrapping their heads around.
Am I right in thinking it was really like the paradigm shift there? What started the downwards trend was the end of like DVDs, VHS, DVDs, when it went from that to streaming. They lost their royalties, that big chunk of revenue that these movies would get post box office would have been the DVD releases, and it just the streaming stuff paled in comparison to that. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I think you're correct. I think, I don't know the exact numbers. It's before my time in the sector. I think probably before Nick's as well. But some stats I've heard is that you would get like on average 50% of your return on the box office, and then another 50% on DVD, VHS sales. And of course, that second slice doesn't exist. And actually, that first slice is also smaller. So now you're just like having one conversation, like streamers, right? And the streamers are studios. So,
guys, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation today. I will hand it back to both of you if there's any final thoughts, any questions, any comments that we didn't ask of you today that you'd like to share with everyone before we let you get out of here. As I do that, I'll give you some flowers. I just saw this from Blake. Just crushing it on the socials. 145% increase in audience growth. 136% increase in impressions. 112 million is that number. 158% increase in engagements. 113% in video views, 150 million. This is compared to Q2 2025. Just like, these are insane numbers. And when I say I recognize it. When I say that you guys, the team, Claynosaurz isn't getting enough credit, like, this is impressive. Web3 or not, or Web2, like, you're making major waves on socials. And I think some people who may not get outside of our crypto Twitter bubble may not be aware of this yet. So any comments you want to add, on this, or like I said, just anything in closing in general, anything we didn't ask you that you wanted to share today?
I was just Captain to go. I was going to say, no, on this in front of you, yeah, like, this is just, Claynosaurz is just a great example of why this works. And like I said, 2-3 years ago, when we started to see this be like the future, the question was, how do you scale it and how do you make it, available widely? But what you have in front of you is a display of why this works so well, right? Like, our social accounts are predominantly organic. I mean, they are organic. There's no paid stuff in there. And if you cold started an account today on Instagram or TikTok, kind of like the example on Lord of the Rings, who's going to come? Well, we've already got fans. It's flywheels and flywheels and flywheels. So this is an example of what's so powerful with having your super fans, really bought into the brand. And then, yeah, I would tell everybody, look forward to a lot more coming from HEEBOO. Follow the channel. There's more announcements coming even in the coming day. We've got a few things, and I'll probably, now that we have like this announcement out there, we can sort of like speak to things a little bit more obviously than before. I think we alluded to things. So, hit a follow, and we're going to continue to do what we do, which is, share what we're doing and unearth the world's greatest stories. And like I said, we got a few big announcements in the wake of this one today. So hit a follow on HEEBOO, hit a follow on the accounts, and there's a lot more coming. And if you're a creator or a fan, which I would think everybody's a fan of something, you should want to participate in HEEBOO. I think there's a big market there, and I think it's a lot of fun. Just don't lose sight of it. We're coming down the road here.
Listen, to audience, this is never any financial advice in the show. As we said, this is free. We talk about part of the benefit is being here is we are at the bleeding edge of tech and finance and IP creation. And this is it. We're early. If you're here, this just got announced. We're all early. Go click through the HEEBOO account. If you're listening to the podcast later, it's HEEBOO official, HEEBOO official. Go give the account a follow. Go head to their website, join their wait list. Hey, maybe nothing comes out of it. Maybe this is a big swing, a big dream, and they make it to first base and it just doesn't work. That's possible. There's also an outcome where they do change media. They do, to quote Andrew, they change the world. Like, this is a big swing. Like, this is a very audacious goal and a very talented team going for it. And this is one of those opportunities where what I think you don't want to be doing if you're listening in is fast forward 5-10 years and HEEBOO is a household name. It's the farm system for Netflix and Disney, and it's where all new creators go to create their IP. And you're kicking yourself because you were here and you faded something that cost you nothing but support and an email address. So yeah, I can't recommend that enough to go give the account a follow, go pay attention. And this is also a great team that's worth supporting. It costs you nothing to go a repost, a like, a comment. Like that stuff is these. I'm not, like I say, I'm biased because they're friends. Like I don't have a bag bias here. It's just like these are the type of builders and teams that I believe we want to be supporting in crypto. I believe they're moving with intention and good intentions at that. Very thoughtful. They're working with their community. They're hiring from with their community. It's just like they're doing a lot of the things, quote unquote, the right way. And there's no guarantee of success. Like I said, this is a big swing, but this is certainly one of those opportunities where appreciate their time today. Appreciate them coming on to share with us today. And I don't think you'd want to be ones that's kicking yourselves for being here, listening in, and then not joining this ride as they do. If and when they do knock this thing out of the park. But yeah, Cab, any final thoughts from you? Any closing words?
No, I'm reflecting exactly what you're saying, and it's oftentimes the ones you least expect that change everything. And I think that one of the things I'm most excited about is I really think that we have a shot at being one of those Web3 stories that are a bigger success story in the real world, that educate everybody on Web3 and like, Facebook, those companies were all Web2 companies and changed everything. I think we're part of the next evolution. And I know that we're going to do massive things. And Web2 is already talking about us. And I think we are one of the teams that can actually mass onboard. Everybody talks about this shit. It's not going to come from DeFi protocols. It's going to come from entertainment that is a mass onboarder, and it's going to come from things that people understand.
Just love it. I appreciate the time. Appreciate more so than your time in today's conversation. It's just like refreshing is the word I keep coming back to. There's a lot of good people. There's a lot of good teams in crypto and Web3. I don't like. I could probably count on one hand the amount of really good, high quality teams that are I feel that are moving with such thoughtful intention and actually building a real business with real revenues and taking these big swings. Right, like. You've got, and I guess one last question, and then I promise we'll get you out of here. You're traveling. Andrew's got.
I'm here. I'm chilling, man.
What this is, this thought of, hey, we're early, we're here, we're building. Where you've got a very talented team we've talked about on the Claynosaurz side. You've got one new executive you're going to be announcing in the upcoming days. Am I like, my takeaway is like kind of like sister companies, like same executive team on both, maybe certain individuals just going to be working on one brand or the other. But my kind of reading between the lines, Cab, I sense a lot of your focus is going to be going to finding these creators and onboarding more creators to HEEBOO. Is my read right there in terms of like two kind of helping with both, some more focus?
I can give you the corporate structure thing, and then Nick can kind of talk about what he's doing. I can allude to it as well as I can tell you too. But so basically, HEEBOO is going to be this sort of studio level, or like call it like a holding company. Mm-hmm. Then you'll have HEEBOO Studios, and you'll have HEEBOO, like the platform company. And underneath HEEBOO Studios, you're going to have Claynosaurz. Now that's like a corporate structure chart that I just drew for you. Like I told you earlier, we've got 40, 45 people plus outsource. Nick mentioned it himself. Like, Clayno is kind of on rails. And also, by the way, like 45 people for a single IP plus outsourced to studios and gaming companies, like that's a ridiculous sized team. That would make no sense from a budget or from a resource perspective. The reason the team is so big is because for 2 years we've been building it to be studio level proper. So what happens is a lot of like the creative pipeline, the team that's self-sufficient at the Clayno level, which includes, the creators who were founders of Claynosaurz. Obviously people know Cab, he's the guy who's outspoken and out here in the trenches with everybody. But we've got Jervis and Cedric and Will, and these are guys who have been on the team since day one, before me actually, who created Claynosaurz. So Jervis is our executive creative director on Claynosaurz. He'll continue to direct the TV show, to direct all the creative stuff, whether it's licensing and merchandising and the game and all these other things. And he's got a team that we've built for that with the partners that it's needed to build. And then Cab, who on the phone with us here, like he is now, chief creative director at the HEEBOO level. But of course, Claynosaurz is all our baby. All of us are still in there. We have an executive that we're announcing tomorrow who also joins at the HEEBOO level, but she also empowers Claynosaurz as the IP that is most forward than anything else we're working on. So everyone's still working on Clayno, and it empowers us to also build up the HEEBOO thing, which is what we've been working on for 2 years. And I don't think anyone's sort of seeing, hey, did Clayno miss a step in the last 2 years? Yeah, you kind of mess around and find things out. I mean, you have to do some testing, but at no point have we like been spread thin at the expense of Claynosaurz. And we've been doing HEEBOO for a while. So today's the announcement, but it's been built for it in the past. Nick, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Cab, if you're still there, anything to add?
Dude, I was looking for the unmute button. Oh my god. So I respect everything Andrew's saying. Is there's an insane team that's really the lifeblood of Claynosaurz. My job for the last, I don't know, I would say almost year has been much more macro than it previously was. I don't need to opine on small things like, like colors and what we shouldn't do on this reel, whatever. That's Jervis, and that's Cedric, and that's all the other creatives that are behind Claynosaurz and live and breathe it. My job is going to transition it. I can really focus on Web3 layer of Claynosaurz. I can focus on being a thought leader in Web2, which is something I love to do. I'm very proud to bring that Web3 space into Web2. And then at the HEEBOO level, I'll be running creative with Will, where we're sourcing and feeding artists. It's sort of like it's like Nick Fury, right? Like we're going out to find the Avengers, basically. And just to give you guys like a little kind of like as into that is I was just at View Conference, which is like cream of the cream of the information conferences. We had major presence there. We were sponsored, and this is not pay to play. Like you have to be invited. They don't let just anybody. We were with Netflix and with Sony and with all those companies, and this is where the directors go to talk about their films, whether it's K-pop Demon Hunters or How to Train a Dragon or Bad Guys 2 or Avatar, all that kind of stuff. I was there speaking for an hour on behalf of Claynosaurz. That's why Variety wrote about it. But I was also hanging out with a lot of these directors or people I knew from my past, and all of them are so bullish on what it is we're doing on the Claynosaurz side. They're so curious, and met a lot of directors or people from Pixar that are sitting on their own IP. They're like, we have to talk. That is going to be my job, as much as it is my job to protect Claynosaurz at the macro level, and both are really symbiotic. The success of Claynosaurz is something that speaks to artists, that eventually translates into why HEEBOO is something that they should look at.
It's awesome, man. Again, love how and what you guys are building. I'm certainly rooting for you. We'll be supporting, and I guess to all other teams in crypto, Web3 founders, team leaders out there. This is we scheduled this interview for 30 minutes. Can't remember the last time we went 90 minutes. I mean, Steve and I will go long from time to time, but I can't remember the time we had a guest that went 90 minutes on a 30-minute interview. I think it speaks to the volumes of the interest, the excitement, and all that you're doing. I will say this. Don't be shy. This is not a sponsored interview, by the way. We've yet to do any sort of sponsored relationship with Claynosaurz. We're just fans of the team, truly. And Steve and I have held a few assets or hold a few assets, but it's not like we're not sitting on thousands of Claynosaurz and we're doing this to pump our bags. It's like we're genuinely impressed and rooting for this team. They also keep us updated. They reach out. Like, I can't tell you how many times Cab's been in my DMs with there's an announcement or you're just sharing a tweet they put on the timeline. The timeline gets noisy. We don't see everything as Spaces hosts, as content creators in this space. They're one of the best in the business, whether it's Cab or Andrew or Andrew Forte out there or David. When Claynosaurz or now HEEBOO does something, they let us know. If it's newsworthy, we're going to talk about it. Like, do we have sponsored segments and sponsored deals? Yes, but we truly want to talk about things that are interesting to us. And when teams that are moving and doing things, we want to discuss those newsworthy items. We just don't see everything, and they're one of the best in the business at politely and non-shilling way of just keeping us updated. I feel like we're part of like an extension of the media team, and we truly have no relationship other than just respect for what they're building and fans of the team. So thank you all for keeping us in touch, and truly appreciate your time today. Apologies for taking
no, not at all. Thanks for having us. I do have to jet because I got another meeting. But man, I'm glad we've had the time to let it all out. You could tell I'm a yapper. Cab's a yapper. So the 90 minutes, I hope we're entertaining for everybody and informative. So thanks for having us, and yeah, all the support. We're so fortunate. Thank you guys.
I'm a yapper, especially when I'm alone at the airport. I'm going to be cheesy for 2 seconds, but and I know you've heard it before, and it was true for both Pudgies and the teams. But dude, a win for us is going to be a win for all of us.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Go give the Claynosaurz support. Give that HEEBOO account a follow and support that if you haven't yet already. Andrew, Cab, everyone else who tuned in today, really appreciate your time. We'll be back tomorrow. Hit the carousel up top all the way to the right. If you've not, Steve will be flying. Well, Steve won't be flying. I'll be flying tomorrow. Steve will be live. Joey, our friend Joey Vowles, will be co-hosting tomorrow. Steve will be live in Vegas. Remember to go find Steve's door and beat in his room at 5 a.m. so you can join him for the live coffee with Captain out there. And as Steve would always say, I said, I'm out tomorrow, so I hope you all have not just a wonderful day today. Hope you all have safe travels. Hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I'll see y'all back on Monday. Thanks all.
Thanks for tuning into Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin. We hope you enjoyed the show, and remember, nothing we discussed today is financial advice. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Welcome to the future.